All right, welcome to If We Had the Pencil podcast. This is actually, you don't know this, but we do. This is like take 4. So here's the story, folks. Matt's traveling, I'm traveling. As anybody that's traveled knows, internet can get a little, we'll call it sketchy. So we're doing our best to record this episode and share it with y'all, and hopefully everything goes well. We're coming off a great weekend this weekend. Not just because of Saturday night's main event, but we're also coming off a great weekend this weekend because those of you that don't know, Matt and I are huge NASCAR fans and racing fans in general, and this past Sunday was the greatest day for auto racing every year, which is you wake up, you get F1, you get Monaco, you get the Indy 500, and then you close out your night with the Coca-Cola 600, and huzzah! As you could tell from Matt's wardrobe, our driver won, and that's the number one of Ross Chastain. He won the Coke 600, and it just made our nights that night.
With a backup car from last place, from 40th to first, and a backup. So,
Yep, that was one hell of a drive. So
yeah.
we're all happy to be here. So here's what we're going to do today, folks. Obviously, we had 3 events this weekend. We're in that 3-week cycle right now where we get a PLE or something like that every couple of weeks. So we're not going to harp on SmackDown too much because a lot of SmackDown was set up, but there was some good stuff in there, some stuff that we got to talk about. And then right after that, we're going to get into Saturday night's main event. And then we're going to move forward, talk about Raw, and then we'll talk about everything coming up. So, Matt, let's just get into it, man, before our internet takes a poo. Got to get it out. All right, so here's the deal. SmackDown kicked off. It had Alexa Bliss, Tiffany Stratton, and Charlotte Flair cutting a promo. My big takeaway from that, this is Alexa Bliss reminding you who Alexa Bliss is, and also kind of introducing herself to Tiffany Stratton. So that was my take on it. What do you got, Matt?
Yeah, I like the fact, and as we'll get to later on the podcast, you'll see why it really ties together. But definitely Alexa pushing the character. She's maintained the character with the doll and the sister Abigail. So I really like that. I did like at the end, Tiffany looks strong. Her promos are getting better. She came out with a great line at the end, which she called Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Vintage, and that Tiffany Stratton is the upgrade. So okay, so let's see how if the upgrade's good or if Vintage still wins out. But I like it add like a nice little element to the feud. I think it's WWE's really big right now on doing triple threats. It's just like to me, this smells like it's going to be a triple threat at some point down the line. Depending how they do with Money in the Bank, they might have something wonky with Money in the Bank where both of them end up getting it or something. It looks like that's going to be a three-woman thing, which would be cool. So that's all I got on that, but it was pretty good. And then at the top of the show, we had a backstage brawl, standard backstage brawl with Priest and Drew, and like 78 WWE's finest security people came in to try to break it up. But
Just be consistent with security. That's all I ask. Like, if it takes 50 dudes to break those two up, okay, then it always takes 50 dudes for guys of that size to break up. But I know it's not.
they were saving themselves in case they had to really get involved on Saturday night. So they were,
Gotta pace.
let's not overdo it, folks. Yeah, pacing. Pacing is key.
So, all right. So after that, we get Julia, who defeated Zelina Vega and Charlotte Flair in the triple threat match, and she qualified. Look, we know Roxanne Perez and Julia are getting huge pushes right now. Welcome to WWE. You're going to get to know them real quick, fast, and in a hurry. And especially with Evolution coming up in July, I think they're building a lot of the women's talent, and I kind of noticed that throughout this entire weekend. The women's talent, they're showcasing more, so when Evolution comes here, you're ready for it.
Yeah, and then that'll be like the premier showcase because it'll be an all women's pay-per-view. So I hope that Evolution becomes a regular thing. I still think you should have like your established stars at Evolution, but I want to see it focus more on the younger talent. And so that it gives them an extra opportunity because, your major PLEs, either one of them, you're either going to have Tiffy or you're going to have, EO Sky or stuff like that. So I think maybe the pay-per-view, you can have one of them, but you don't need to stack it with every top star. Let's do some NXT call-ups, have maybe a couple come in from TNA onto Evolution. Maybe some of the female luchas from AAA can get in that and just kind of have like almost like it's a celebration of the evolution of women's wrestling. I think if I was to do that, I would reach out to all those other promotions tied to WWE and kind of make it like a really super show where we get to see new faces. And I think that'd be a win-win for everybody.
I agree. And I think it'll be awesome because I think you're also going to see some of the old schoolers coming back, and it's going to be like so awesome to see that interaction between new and old and this and that at different companies, everything else. I think it's all going to come together great.
I think it'll be good too, because then the younger wrestlers will learn from the veterans. But I think it'll give the veterans that little extra motivation to step up their game to keep up with these young kids. So it'll be that friendly competition with it cooperating. I think it could be a lot of fun. I hope they go that route. I really do. The match itself, I'm really happy that Julia won, because I was kind of part of me like, well, Vega's not going to win because she's she's got the U.S. title, and the other two are just too. You got Charlotte Flair, and so I'm thinking, well, they're probably going to let Charlotte have it. But I think this time around, WWE's booking Charlotte where it's not going to be as easy. Like, she walked back in, won the Rumble, got the WrestleMania title shot, lost that. Well, now I think Charlotte's going to have to struggle to get her way back up. So I think this her losing in the triple threat. First of all, I think it's a great idea with Julia. Her Northern Lights bomb finisher is really good. So, and there was a lot of good chain stuff up with. She also pulled off a Rings of Saturn, and I definitely popped when she pulled that off, because that's not a move you see that often, and even less often in the women's division. That's usually a guy's hold. So, unless anybody knows any female wrestler other than Julia that uses Rings of Saturn, please let me know. But I thought it was cool because it was very unique, and it just came out. It came literally from nowhere, and I thought it was great. So, it was a solid match. I gave it a B+ because there was a lot of good wrestling in that match by all three ladies.
So after that, Damian Priest, him and Drew got into it, started smacking each other around. Okay. Again, go home show setting up the PLE. So nothing earth-shattering or magical there. It just happened.
Yep. Yeah, I don't have a lot of notes from SmackDown because it was pretty much your standard go home show. It was an enjoyable 3 hours, but I don't think it was earth-shattering, but it wasn't a waste of 3 hours, so it was adequate. I did like the Sabin-Ciampa match that comes up next. God, anybody in the tag team division can really work. I mean, whether they go into singles or doubles, triple threat, or whatever they do, like, they're all so well-rounded. So, I mean, it was a solid B match, but it was just good, solid work. It's enjoyable. And I think, a lot of sites like to give out A's for every little thing. It's got to be a step above to be an A. But I think, a B, WWE, every match they pull off with the competition they have should be a B at the minimum. So, but no, it was a good match. Then interesting point was Mrs. Johnny Wrestling came out to ringside and interfered. So Candice LeRae, good to see her back, and this might be a good role for her being with DIY. So what do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I think so too. I think that she needs a little something. I don't know what that something is, but I think she needs a little something. So yeah, nothing to add. I mean, I really kind of want to see it morph that way. Maybe she takes more of a managerial role. I mean, look, I'm going to show my bias, Matt. When it comes to Candice LeRae, the only thing that ever enamors me is her teeny tiny little feet. Like, it blows my mind how small her damn feet are.
Her little elf feet, or not elf feet, little pixie feet, yeah. She is.
Every time I see her wrestle, man, and she wears those black boots, so it accentuates it. It's just so yeah. It's very cool though.
No, but that was a cool little end bit. So no, it was solid. That's basically what I had for notes. It was just a fun match to watch. So I think I might have said this before. I said, and Sean agrees too. Sometimes I sit there and I want to take notes because I forget, but then the wrestling fan comes out, because at the end of the day, that's what we are. We're just wrestling fans that get on the internet, and we do this podcast because we enjoy it. But anyway, also sometimes you just get caught where you put your notes down, you watch the match. It's a good, solid match. Nothing stands out. That's the only thing I had was Candice's interference, which doesn't mean the match was bad. I mean, it got my attention, and I didn't feel like I wanted to take notes over it. I didn't want to distract myself to take notes. Again, anybody in that SmackDown tag division, you can throw them in however you want, and it's going to be solid.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a little bit. So, All right, I'm gonna blast through a couple of these. So, Michin, B-Fab defeated Piper Niven and Alba Fire. Look, as a Chelsea Green stan, and I love Chelsea Green, I by extension also really like. Well, I've always been a Piper Niven fan. I think she's amazing, and I also think Alba Fire is really good too. They need to start getting some W's,
Yeah.
and like it's really stalling that possibility of a storyline with the three of them out because that faction is just stuck in the mud right now because they're losing to people like, no offense to them, BFAB and Michin. Like, no.
Yep.
They need to start getting over. You need to start asserting your dominance. Like, the gimmick, in my opinion, is good, but they need to take it somewhere. And they can get some mileage out of it. They just got to do it correctly.
Well, also, if Chelsea Green is constantly in the title picture for that U.S. title, or just about, just under that contender for the world title level, if the people she associates lose all the time, then it kind of makes it look like Chelsea associates with losers, so it doesn't help the Chelsea Green character. And so if you have them get a few W's, then it gives them at least more credibility. Rather like they're just a couple of lackeys that are just hanging on Chelsea that, yeah, they might look intimidating, but at the end they can't fight their way out of a wet paper bag, So, and I just don't understand why mention a BFAB, like if they push them, like nobody's going to care.
Yeah.
But if you push the her service along with Chelsea Green, that little freight train can get some momentum going. I mean, Mention's pretty good in the ring. BFAB is all right. They just don't do anything for me, and I don't think no matter what they try to do that it'll get me any more excited in those two.
So I'm going to add one caveat to this, and that is when it comes to Michin and especially BFAB, there's been a lot of improvement, right? Like, believe it or not, for Michin, I need character work. Now, for BFAB, she just needs to continue to improve, and she's doing that. Like, she's come a long way just in the short time since she's been on TV more and more. I just need a little bit more out of BFAB so she can get up into those higher tiers and start being relevant as well. But at the end of the day, I don't need Piper Niven and Alba Fire acting like real WWE security and sucking at life. I want them to be the model for WWE security.
I mean, honestly, if you want to book the her service right, and this supposed to be security, well, there's security, but they also have, you build them up where they have an ego, in the wrong way. Like, so when they do lose, it's not that they get pinned, it's because they do something stupid and they abuse their power and they get disqualified. That's what I would do it. Or, they end up just doing stuff outside the ring or get counted out, but like they shouldn't be eating a pinfall, So they could only win half the time, but then the other half of the time they're getting disqualified or something happens or no contest or whatever, and it doesn't hurt them. And then it doesn't hurt Chelsea Green because she's not hanging around with people that are basically losers because they're put out there to lose every week. When they do lose, it's because they're doing stuff that's like illegal and abusive. So if anything, it makes them look more like a badass group.
Yeah.
I mean, if Chelsea Green wants to tariff people and deport them and stuff like she's been doing when she's standing outside the ring yelling at the fans, threatening to tariff them, like have it be like the crooked Secret Service. Like, they're not the Secret Service agents with integrity. You have Alba and you have Piper. They do everything the Secret Service shouldn't. They're like the dirty agents. So now now Chelsea Green with her Karen attitude and throwing her policies out to the crowd, and then you have her instead of lackeys, you have her security team that like. Yeah, we're not going to follow the rules. We do our own thing. We're like rogue Secret Service, so bite me. So I think that'd make that faction a little more fun, and it wouldn't be hard to do. But boy, we talked a lot about a match that we thought was rather insignificant.
I think the important thing is we're all about storyline here, and I think there's a lot of opportunity right now with the her service or however you say it. So I don't want to belabor the point. We got a lot to get through, but
Right. And
'cause
even
after
before
we
that, there was a backstage thing with Fatu and Solo and JC Mateo, which was bringing up a lot of tension in the group because Fatu did not want to tag with JC Mateo one bit, which ended up leading into the match with Fatu and JC Mateo and against Jimmy Uso and Ray Phoenix. So what do you got on that, Sean?
Ray Phoenix. That's it. Like that is all Ray Phoenix. Like it was entertaining match. I'm not gonna lie, but like Ray Phoenix.
Yeah, that corkscrew plancha off the top, that was good. Gosh, see, that's what folks. When I take notes, that's all I have. Phoenix corkscrew plancha off the top, and a really fun match. It was. I mean, that's all you have to say, and it's going to be Ray Phoenix. But again, there's that heat. There was some reluctant tagging going on, and then they kind of worked all right together. But after the match, still a lot of tension. So we're getting that nice slow tension build. Like, please, Triple H, don't rush the whole Fatu Solo split. Let the time and do itself. Don't rush it. Don't drag it on too long either, because you don't want that to lose steam. You want to get it the sweet spot, but it's build it up. And if you notice, Fatu's starting to play to the crowd here and there.
Yeah.
So he's giving his hints out too. So anytime you get Fatu anyway, he's a pleasure to watch. And gosh, put him with Ray Phoenix, and then you got like Jimmy Uso. And I hate to use the word utility player, but you can stick Jimmy Uso with anybody on the roster, and he's kind of like the Miz, But Jimmy's that piece you can just put with a lot of different people, and you're going to get solid stuff from Jimmy. So fun match, but that's all I got, because then it leads into the R-Truth promo.
Yeah. Before we go on to that, I wanted to touch on Jimmy real quick because like you kind of hit on something that's been gnawing at the back of my brain for a while, and that it really is that I really want Jimmy to find his J path. And the reason I say that is that to your point, like he's just that continuity glue, but like as a character right now, he's in this like malaise of he's Jimmy. He hasn't found himself yet, right? Like his identity is still kind of Uso-ish, and he hasn't found himself. And I need him to find himself. Like Jey Uso found main event Jey Uso, right? And like he's maximizing on that. I really want that for Jimmy because he's too damn talented to just be out there, and I don't want to see him revert back to being a tag guy. I need him like in the mix, so to speak.
Yeah, that's a great point. I agree. I think they got to find some way with Jimmy. And I think this is a problem I'm starting to see WWE have, is they're starting to have problems find out what to do with like certain people. Like Sami Zayn, I think they're figuring out, but for a while Sami Zayn was just kind of lost in the shuffle. Austin Theory's another one. He got kind of lost in and did the A-Town Downtown, which had little moments, but it wasn't a big thing. So I think I think we're going to we'll talk about Austin Theory here in a little bit, maybe. But they'll find something for him. But Jimmy's he's just kind of like waiting. Like, and that's kind of how I felt about Damian Priest until Saturday night's main event, because now I know why they did what they did, but like they got to find something, and they will. It's just we got to wait through the time and until they find something. But I think they will, and Jimmy will get a good spark and a good run going, because he's as good as his brother. Like you said, he's just got to channel into that what Jay did and make his own identity.
He just needs a character.
Yeah.
And it's funny you bring up Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn is that proverbial lost in the woods guy. Like, I've never seen one dude get more lost in the woods. Like, I'm significant. I'm not. I'm significant. I'm not.
Yeah.
And somehow he gloms on to all these big-ass storylines, and I don't know how he does it. I mean, we're not that far removed where he lost to Johnny Knoxville in a giant mousetrap or some crap, right? Like,
oh, the giant hand slapped him or something. Yeah, yeah.
So, like, Sammy is the, like, master of recovery, but that dude just wanders around the woods aimlessly, and then next thing you know, you're like, oh, he's a guy again.
Yep.
He kind of fell off the map, then he starts tagging with KO. It's just, like, a whole thing, and I appreciate Sami Zayn for that, but it's just crazy, like, how he can just find a way to weasel his way back in. But you know what? He's on Raw. we're talking SmackDown.
Yeah.
And to your point, R-Truth cut probably his most significant promo since, like, whatever, little Jimmy was on her shoulder. I don't know. But, like, he cut a great promo, and it was nice to see him get some camera time, so to speak. Without just being a goofball, he cut some legit stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it felt heartfelt. Because I had a feeling it was going to be serious, so I'm glad that they went the serious route. But yeah, I don't have any notes other than the fact I thought it was just a great R-Truth promo. He got some good stuff out there, said what he had to say, and it was believable. And it made me look forward more to Saturday night. It did what it's supposed to do.
It did what it was supposed to do.
Yep.
So after that, we get LA Knight, Aleister Black, and Shinsuke Nakamura. And I can tell you right now, I have not watched a match where I was so conflicted in so many different ways, because I think Knight should be in the Money in the Bank. But on the flip side, I want to see stuff for Shinsuke Nakamura. And yes, Aleister Black's coming back, so I hope Shinsuke and Aleister have a program where they're just kicking the crap out of each other.
Yeah.
Literally. And then, LA Knight can go forth and do great things, because I think LA Knight and Money in the Bank is a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was. The right guy went over, but there was a lot of great stuff in that match. And I love how they did the finish, too, because Shinsuke got pinned, but at the end of the day, Shinsuke didn't look weak because he ate Black Mass, and then Knight just deposits Aleister Black and just steals a cheap pin. So it was a cool little finish. So, and yeah, I agree. Give me Aleister Black and Shinsuke, like, sooner rather than later. That'd be a fun kick fest.
Yes, I think it's going to be really freaking cool, and I'm all for it.
Aleister Black, like, he comes in, he's all tatted up, he's got the contact lens, but then, like, you watch how he moves, and because of his Muay Thai background, he's probably, like, his personality, like, off camera is probably totally opposite of what you would think it would be, He's probably just one of those, like, humble guys because, the martial arts, and, I've known a lot of headbangers and stuff, and they're, like, the nicest people, so... some people might want to judge Aleister Black by how he looks. Man, just watch and see what he does in the ring. I think he's a good dude, and I think him and Nakamura could really be a show stealer if they put it together.
I think so too. So we get the match of the night, and woo Nelly, was it a great freaking match. And that was Street Profits and Fraxium, and again, the rich get richer. The SmackDown Tag Division is ridiculous. It's probably the top tier, title contenders, more so than the cinema title, more so than the women's title. It's just the best thing going on SmackDown right now, by far. And I don't want to get into the very ending yet. I just want to talk about the match for a second, because I thought the match was phenomenal. I was just glued to it, and then we'll get into that. So what were your thoughts about the actual match up until the very end?
Those teams, like, they've wrestled each other twice. You swear they've wrestled each other, like, for 2 years. Just the way they work, the synergy between both teams, how they work things. Fantastic match. I mean, I gave the match an A, and I talked earlier about how, like, everybody gives A's out easy. That match was a definite A. It was just... it was fast. When they went through the whole, 5 minutes of false finishes, it was done so good, and I don't think it was over the top. It was just... Fraxium is for real. That team is amazing.
Yeah, they are.
And I'm not taking anything away from the Street Profits, because as good as all those other teams are right now, to me, the Street Profits are the best in that division. Just because they can work with all these teams and have great matches. Just right now, the Street Profits, they're the right ones holding the title. And yeah, hell, give me a whole show of just SmackDown Tag Team and I'll be happy with it. I'll make double popcorn that night.
I'm with you, man. So at the very end, we get the Wyatts. And I'm happy to see the Wyatts back. I do think there's eventually going to be a tie-in with the Wyatts and Alexa Bliss, but I think Bliss has to reestablish herself as it is. The one thing I didn't pick up on, and when they came back out and the way they closed out the show, it was Bray's birthday. And I had seen it on social media all day, people talking about Bray, et cetera, about it being his birthday. And then I was like, I'm a dumbass. That's why the Wyatt Six came back on this day.
Yeah, because when the match was going, and when they were going through all that false finishes, then DIY came out, and then Motor City Machine Guns came out, and I was mad because there was such a great match going, and then like they had to bring the other two teams out, and I'm like, oh, they're gonna throw the match out, but really that was just an excuse to bring out the Wyatt Six, and I was like, okay, now I know why they did what they did. I thought, I don't know, maybe because it was his birthday, I just don't know if I really loved how they brought the Wyatt Six back. I don't know if that was the right way to do it.
I don't think they brought them back that way for. I don't think they brought them back that way for them to come back. I think there's a separate story there. I think that was just a tribute to Bray, remind people they're out there, because the problem is that when Wyatt Six became a thing, there was deliberate targets. They were taking on everybody that betrayed somebody else. They were leveling the playing field. They were getting justice for people that had wronged their partners, their friends, turned their backs on their factions. They were doing that, and it was effective, and it made sense. And now you had this return, and I'm hoping that it's just to say, yes, we came back, we're here. And now let's start doing Wyatt Six shit. I have hope for them. I think they just gotta give them the right of. I think there's a lot of people out there that they could start targeting in on. I think, you got the stuff going on with Legado de Fantasma right now. So there's possibilities there, taking on Santos Escobar, stuff like that. Like guys like that you could work on. The only thing that didn't really make a lot of sense, if this is the route, if you're maintaining this route for the Wyatt Six, is why the tag division? Of all divisions, why are they chasing the tag division? And okay, but it doesn't make a lot of sense because there's no connection there. No. So,
and really, none of the people that got attacked are like the abusive bully types. I mean, maybe you could say DIY, but they're just a heel tag team. They're not they don't I mean, I guess, they'll attack people backstage, but they're not the level they were when they were going after Chad Gable and others beforehand that were abusing their power. DIY is not really abusing their power, so that's why I'm saying it didn't make sense. Now, if that was just a way to bring them back because it was Bray's birthday, and maybe that they bring them back in a separate program, then maybe I could understand it because it was like a tribute thing. But I just hope that this isn't the storyline because it left me really happy to see him back, but very confused on why they did it that way.
I agree, and I hope that it kind of washes itself out. So I'm not overly concerned about it, but I'm happy to see him back, and I'm glad that they're. I think the reason I'm happy to see him back is they've been teasing, and honestly, that's a group that could actually transcend both. So that's the important part. That group can go on Raw, that group can go on SmackDown, they could chase whoever the hell they want, and nobody's going to say anything. They're one of those groups that can actually transcend both, where you're not why the hell are they on here? They're the spooky, scary people. Let them do spooky, scary things or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean,
they don't follow the
entire
rules.
roster backstage when they came around. So there's work to be done there. But I think done the right way, they're effective. And I think we need to getting into the why. Why did they do what they did? Why are they, it's fine. We can fix it with promos and as everybody says, we'll fix it in post. Well, in WWE, you fix it through promos, right? And we saw a little bit of that too. We saw it even with JC Mateo, right? What's the why? And we're definitely going to talk about why here in a little bit when we get to Raw. But Matt, anything else to say on the go-home show for SmackDown?
No, it was actually, I was thinking before the podcast, it was a pretty standard show, but I went through my notes, I'm like, SmackDown was pretty decent. There was some good stuff on there. So, yeah, they didn't take their foot off the gas, but they might have eased it up just a little bit, just to kind of, but it set up the next night. And it got you interested. They had enough stuff in there that would make you more interested in the Saturday night's main event and the following SmackDown. So it did its job. So I was generally pleased with SmackDown. No major gripes.
And here's a little caveat, folks. I apologize. You're going to see me fidget a lot. Maybe I'll take a still frame of my hotel setup here, but I'm scrolling through notes. I have portable screen. It's craziness here. So I gotta keep on moving my notes around. So it's a little funky tonight for the video side of the house, but we'll be okay. All right. So we're gonna move on to the commercials. To Saturday night's main event. Did I mention there was a lot of freaking commercials, and then there was more commercials, a little bit of wrestling, and then more commercials? I have never been so distracted by that many commercials. Like, it was bad.
Very bad. Yeah, it was like terrible. I got it. You got to pay. You got to pay you got to pay for the sponsors and pay for the network. But gosh, that was ridiculous. And not one like picture. I don't think they ever did a picture in a picture, did they? The whole show?
No.
Yeah, it was.
And going back to Sunday, right? If you sat there, I'm not saying anybody's a race fan or isn't a race fan, but I'm going to use this as an equivalent. And we kind of saw the best of both worlds throughout Sunday with all the races. Because guess what? F1, no commercials. None.
Yep.
And then Indy, commercial fest. And then because the Coke 600 was on Prime, it was, yes, there was commercials, but the commercials, even when they were on, also had side-by-side.
Yep. And the only time you didn't see it
without commercials, we saw
Yep.
how not to do it with commercials. And we saw probably the best way you could get away with a live sports event with commercials. And that's the way they did it in the Coke 600.
Yep, agreed. And the only time that you didn't see any racing was when they were bringing tribute to the fallen, and that was totally understandable. After a 5-hour podcast, it was 9 minutes of stuff that you didn't actually get to see him on the track. So I kind of want to piggyback on that real quick. This is not a NASCAR post, but for those of you who may have watched the race on Amazon Prime, we talk about a lot with WWE and how good the camera work is and how good the production is. And Sunday night was one of the best displays of a race. So production means a lot. So, and I was sitting there even watching how Amazon Prime was covering the race and camera angles and fan interactions. Their pre-race show felt very much like the pre-show of a pay-per-view or PLE for the WWE. So WWE's always been a trendsetter. So I was just thinking, man, does WWE have that much of an influence where they could actually, NASCAR's looking in at how WWE does their pre-show? But it just goes to show how important production is. Because, I'll comment to Sean, we're watching Raw or SmackDown or PLE, and WWE's video packages on a feud or a character or a person.
Level.
Yeah, and I'll just be so I always comment, and Sean will agree. It's I'll be like, damn, WWE's video packaging is so good. Their production it's so top notch, and it really is. So I just want to kind of give a shout out just because you talked about commercials and production. WWE's production is just off the charts. So kudos to that team. I'm sure they got stuck. It's not their call, I think, to have 100 commercials like they did through Saturday night's main event, but it was annoying, especially as we're getting ready to transition to talking about the Saturday night show.
I'm not ready to talk Saturday night yet, Matt, because I fibbed in the beginning of the show. I actually have a rant or two.
Sean's rant of the week.
A little late, but never. Here it is. Why Vegas? They moved from New Orleans. They moved WrestleMania back to Vegas for back-to-back times. Putting it in Vegas a second time after your entire fan base, for the most part, said, this is kind of shit, and you're charging way too much for this crap. And they're like, we made record numbers. Well, no crap. You gouged everybody. And my problem with that is twofold. One, I like that WrestleMania moved around because it got to engage different fan bases. And no knock on any region in the country right now's fan base. But wrestling fandom is at its greatest in the Northeast. I'm sorry, those are facts. There's other pockets of the country that have good fans and everything else, but the Northeast, when they did that WrestleMania in Philly, I wanted so badly to be there. Not just because it was close for me, but because I knew those fans were going to be off the chain. And we got this, I'm going to say it, man. We got this kind of, you see it in the Super Bowl, right? The Super Bowl has become this massive event. And, you get people that go to the Super Bowl because it's the Super Bowl. And now it's happening with WrestleMania too. Well, the problem is that you get me as a Bills fan, I am a ravenous Bills fan. We are loud in our stadium. We're proud in what we do. We make it hard for the opponents. But anytime you see a team with a fan base like that they're neutered because they priced out the regular fan, and you just get the, yay, that was a good play. Yay, that was awesome. And that's what you got, I feel like you got out of WrestleMania this year, was the golf clap. Like, yay, that was kind of cool. Yay, we're at WrestleMania because it's WrestleMania and it's really cool. Well, that's not what wrestling is. The wrestling is the fans. And this is where, like, all this, like, pissing contest between AEW and WWE fans right now is the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. But there is some validity in the fact that you are now going to start pushing your fan base away because you're pricing them out. Like, yes, WWE is a hot ticket. Yes, you're going to get your monies. And I expect to pay a little bit more for WWE, but you're going to hit that tipping point where you're going to alienate everybody. And then you're going to start seeing it go down. And then we're going to go back to the time when it was just ho-hum, I watch wrestling because that's what I do. And they're walking a really fine line right now. And it all revolves around this move back to Vegas. We're going to throw money in the bank at them. And I think my biggest beef with it is, and I'm going to be honest, if they said, like, Indianapolis, you're going to be the home of WrestleMania, like the Combine is, I think I'm okay with that. It's kind of middle ground, right? Like, everybody gets access. It's not overly expensive. Sorry, that is definitely my rant on this, but, like, why?
Well, I don't, and I'm not crapping on Vegas either, because I mean, I've been to Vegas. It's a cool city, but I like you. I like to see it at different venues. And to your point, the Northeast is, I'm from the Northeast. It's a great fan base. But I tell you what, the last week and a half with shows in Greensboro and North Carolina, then Greenville, South Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, down to Tampa, those are good crowds too. Southeast has always been a hotbed for wrestling. So, you could have put WrestleMania in Atlanta. And I was thinking, like, didn't we just have a WrestleMania a few years ago in New Orleans? Not too long ago. So New Orleans has had, they get it often. So I was like, all right, that's cool. But, I don't think we've had one in Miami ever. We've had it in Orlando with this. They did Tampa. They did the Citrus Bowl,
wasn't it?
Yeah, but then they did the back-to-back where they let the fans in, but it wasn't a true show. But you got Miami. They've done Dallas a few times. So I mean, they even did a WrestleMania in Seattle at the ballpark. So I'm a big fan of that. That should move around every year. I mean, I would love to see a WrestleMania at Wembley Stadium. I think that would be cool, or international place, or somewhere in the UK. I think London would be a great spot if you're going to go internationally. To do the first one internationally would be in London. I wouldn't mind seeing a WrestleMania go international. So you got all these cities. So why are they doing it in Vegas? Vegas must have just offered them I don't even want to say a truckload. Like, I'm talking about a train full of cash to keep it there. Because Vegas has said they want to be the next big sports city. So they want to have big events. That's why they want to have a Super Bowl there. But they want a reoccurring big event. So not only are you going to see WrestleMania in Vegas next year, I think you're going to start seeing a lot of other big events coming out of Vegas. So I don't know. It sounds like, I'm not saying that WWE is going to be headquartered in Vegas, but that might be like their home base, like west of the Mississippi or something like that. I don't know. That might be a place you're going to see a lot on WWE programming.
So yeah, and we'll move on from that because I think I've went scorched earth enough. Before we get into Saturday night's main event, this isn't really a rant. This is more of a disclaimer, right? So I need people to understand. And this is stemming from a lot of people crapping on Saturday night's main event because the women only got like 5 minutes or something like that in their match. Okay, look, folks. Saturday night's main event is unique. One, it is not a PLE, period. It's not a PLE. Do not treat it as a PLE. Do not expect it as a PLE. It is not a PLE. This is... If there is a land between preseason football and regular season football, Saturday night's main event is between the two. Okay? The matches are going to be different. You're not going to get a lot of storyline development. It's really just a showcase to showcase WWE for WWE. That's all it is. Like, you're not going to go beyond that. You're not going to go past that. That's just what it is.
Yeah, the language is toned down, the excessive violence, even though we got some violence in the show, but it's not the same as PLE, not even the same as a Raw or a SmackDown. It's a 2-hour showcase to get people out. But yeah, I think people's expectations, mine included, were like kind of high for the show. But we'll get into Saturday Night's Live main event here in a little bit. But
Yeah, I think the important thing to
I
take
understand
away
your rant. Expectations is what people have to understand.
Yes. So, all right. Well, let's just get into it. All right. So we kicked off with Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, Sami Zayn, and CM Punk. The crowd was hot. The match started hot. I love the aesthetics of Saturday night's main event. I love the referees wearing bow ties. I like the faster pace. So this ties into the type of show Saturday night's main event is, which is you don't have a lot of time. Get your shit in, and it forces everybody to operate on an accelerated schedule, and I thought I liked that aspect of it with less commercials.
Yes. Yeah.
So
I agree. And I love the red, white, and blue ring ropes. I always like the red, white, and blue ring ropes. I wish they'd bring that back more. It's an aesthetic thing. It just always looked cool.
Look, this match was good, but the big takeaway is Bronson Reed is back, and he is aligned with Seth Rollins. And, like, from a storyline perspective, I think the best thing about all of it was at the very end, when Seth just kind of gave love, kind of held back Braun Breaker and hugged Bronson Reed, and Paul Heyman sold the whole thing with his face, man. He was just like, I didn't see it coming. And, like, that's so important because we always view Paul Heyman as the guy puppeteering and moving and shaking and making everything happen. Seth is calling the shots, not Heyman. And that's important because I think we don't expect this faction to last forever. We know this. But why that's important is right now Heyman's happy as happy can be playing second fiddle to Seth Rollins. When that eventual split happens and he takes his toys and goes home, that's going to be one of the catalysts in that, which is you made me the second-hand man and I am a leading man. And it's really going to come down to that. And that's going to be Paul's justification for getting out from under Seth Rollins. And I think it's awesome.
Well, it also showed that Seth Rollins is still the architect because he is the one designing and adding and all this stuff. The match was really good. Again, Paulie did something I really liked. He grabbed a hold of Sami from the outside, did the heelish manager thing, old school. I loved it. Yeah, it was the old school match. I also noticed that the ring itself seemed to have a lot more bounce on Saturday night, more than usual. So maybe because, and I think that's because Bronson Reed maybe was going to do his leap and they wanted more spring to make it look more destructive, but no, it was really good. Again, Braun with the spear on the outside. Yeah, he just looks like he's killing people. So again, a lot of fun. That was the best match of the whole show. Like if after that match, I'm like, man, if this might be a surprise show, it wasn't. No. Except for about halfway through, there was some pleasant surprises. But we'll get to that.
Okay, so we're gonna get into the steaming turd. And that is the match between Chelsea Green and Zelina Vega. Saturday night's main event is not your typical thing. You got to get your stuff in, you got to get your stuff fast. It was not a good night for Zelina Vega, and I think it shook a lot of people's possible confidence in her overall as a wrestler. And she's going to be doing some damage control rework to build herself back up because the botched 6-1 and there was some rough stuff. She busted Chelsea Green's nose. Chelsea Green looks solid. It's just Zelina kind of put stacked botches. There's no other way to say it.
No. Actually, the only move I think Vega did clean was her finisher when she gave her the code red from the top rope. But, that 619 attempt fell far short. And then that's what happened. She tried to compensate. She gave that second kick, and that's what busted Chelsea's nose. But yeah, there was simple stuff. I can't remember what moves there were, but there was pretty routine stuff she was botching. Like, I get it, you're going to have an off night, but good Lord, that was fugly. Chelsea was trying to do as much damage control, trying to sell and make work what she could, but yeah, it was not. I don't think there was happy faces in Gorilla after that match.
It was rough. All right, so we're not going to belabor it.
They just need to pull the title off of Zelina. I think it's time to yank that U.S. title from Zelina. If they were thinking about it, they definitely accelerated it after last Saturday night. So, and I get it because of the AAA thing, but yeah, that's gotta It's got to go
She
either go
doesn't
back to
need the
Chelsea.
U.S. title.
No,
She doesn't need the U.S. title to do the AAA thing.
no.
All right, folks. So, little inside baseball here. We're actually on take 5. A lot. So this episode's called "Old Farts New Tech," and there's a reason for it, right? So Matt and I are fairly new to the podcasting game, and we're still learning what we got to do and how things work. Like right now, I have tons of glare coming off my monitors on my glasses, but I can't help it. Brother need to see. Anyways, long story short, we've tried some new stuff tonight. Probably not the best environment to try new stuff on crappy hotel internet, and him and I both being traveling. Long story short, it went bad. So there'll be some edits tonight. So that's where we're at. So here's the deal, folks. We're going to go into John Cena and R-Truth, and nailed it.
Nailed it!
Effing nailed it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go back. Go check all our social medias out there. Watch our last episode. Matt and I called damn well near everything that occurred in this match. And I'm not going to lie to you, we were spiking the football. And honestly, if I have my screen share right now, I would be showing you the text that goes, I'm paraphrasing, but it's something to the effect of, holy crap, is like, we effing nailed it. And Matt dropping the holy F. And like, we killed it. And like, honestly, even when we talked about the match going on, the match kind of went how we thought the match was going to go, and everything happened. And then we got to the end. Cena played with our emotions a little bit. I think they are teasing he's starting to regret being a heel. I hope not. I wanted him to go out with a bang. So just go ultimate heel. But he teased it, gives the belt back to the ref, low blows R-Truth, gets the win, belts him with the belt, and he walks out. And you're kind of like, kind of heelish, but I need you to complete that. Well, Matt and I talked about it after the fact, and we both kind of agreed that this is what we were talking about with the Saturday night main event thing, right? You're on NBC, you're not on Netflix. You don't have as much latitude for certain things. So I think the best way to put this, we had a PG era in WWE. I think when it's on NBC, you're getting PG-13 at best. And like, I think that came into play. Matt and I both wanted to see R-Truth coming out in a stretcher, to be honest with you. We wanted him taken out of the ring in a stretcher. We wanted him to just get pummeled, and we didn't get that. But I think some of that is the NBC effect. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, definitely the NBC effect. And also, we're going to talk about the cage match after this, but after we had the kind of violent ending to the cage match, it kind of made sense, because that might have just been if they had a really violent segment in the Cena R-Truth thing, and then added with that really violent segment in the cage match. It might have been one, too much violence for NBC, or if Cena just went out and obliterated R-Truth, it might have taken away from the violence that happened in the cage match. But I mean, I think 95% got the story across. He cheated to win, and then after he went in, he gave him I think he gave him an AA. He gave him an AA after the bell rang. He went back, and I think he gave him an AA. So he did a post-Mac attack, kind of ultra heelish, but not to the level of violence. Like, we wanted him to like AA him through a table or on the stairs, or just something devastating, just to destroy R-Truth and really get the hatred of the fans. But I understand, if that was a Raw, if that was on SmackDown on Friday nights, or if that was on a PLE, I think you would have seen that extra. But still, I think it was really good. I mean, for a 4-minute match, it told a good story. And you talked about pacing at the top of the show. I did like the pacing of the matches being somewhat shorter. The only thing is, and we'll get to it at the end of Saturday night's main event, the way it paced with the main event hurt the main event. But I'll talk about that when we get to it. But the pacing was good. The match was what it was. It was a C grade match, but I gave the whole thing a B, because the R-Truth entrance and John Cena shtick raised it a whole letter grade. But that's because
I think that's the thing too. Like, we weren't expecting a 5-star match out of that. We were expecting story, and we got story. So
no, it was not going to be Flair Steamboat from '89 by any stretch of the means.
Now, folks, you'll hear us talk about this a lot, because Matt and I are of the belief that the 2 world titles for the men have 2 totally different purposes. So the heavyweight championship, which is the one on Raw, that championship serves a purpose of, that's your workman's world Championship. That's the guy that's going to be on TV all the time. You're going to see the belt a lot. You're going to see everything a lot. That's going to happen. And my camera is picking up on my gestures. Still learning, silly AI. And then the other thing that you're going to find out is that the title on SmackDown that John Cena currently possesses is the Cinema title, right?
Yep.
That title is for like your mega storyline. So you get that a lot with Cody Rhodes, him chasing his story, the Bloodline story. That's the Cinema title. And it's important to keep in mind, right? Because you get away with Cena having that belt and having that R-Truth storyline because that Cinema belt allows you to just tell the story.
Yep.
You'll hear me crap on Roman Reigns' title run a lot because that was all Cinema, right? Even when he wasn't around, people were carrying it. They were telling the story. It was like The Sopranos, right? The story just kept going. So you got to keep.
But the problem is he had both belts. That's what really made that suck.
That was a mega problem. That was
it was
mega problem for them.
Yeah, they backed themselves into a bad corner when they did that to him.
They should have never.
But also, I do like the fact that R-Truth and Cena, that it was a non-title match. So that made sense too, because it just would have made sense
up on it quick. And I think from a story perspective, the fact that it was a non-title match kind of gave you the hope that R-Truth had some legitimate shot in there, and that was not meant to be. But we did get another gem out of that, and that was Cena backstage talking to Jey Uso and pretty much telegraphing what he was going to do. So, we'll get to it. I don't want to jump the gun here. We'll get to it with the final match of Saturday night's main event. So, after that, we got Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest in a cage. Okay, asterisk, disclaimer, however you want to put it. This match was written in order to write Drew off for a little while. So, Drew's taking a break. Fine, he deserves it. He's got some nagging injuries. But that was designed to get Drew off. Keep that in mind when we get to talking about the ending here. Overall, as steel cage matches go, it was good. There was a lot of good use of the cage, actually, but it was lacking. And I think, again, this is the Saturday night main event thing. And the problem with this one was this was a blow-off match, and before we knew the storyline behind it, or the real story, the real life, not kayfabe, before we knew the story, you kind of walked out of that match and went, that was lacking. Yeah. So, but now we know more, we have the context, but it was lacking. And Matt, I'll let you go before I shit on the ending of this match.
I want to talk about Jesse Ventura, and I love Jesse Ventura. I grew up on Jesse Ventura. I mean, as a wrestler, and then as he transitioned over to being a color commentator, who is one of the best color commentators. So I just want to put a disclaimer out that I am not at all crapping on Jesse Ventura. But there is a however. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to get to the bad, and then I'm going to end on a good note for Jesse, because it wasn't all bad for Jesse. But Jesse either has a memory issue or something, because Michael Kogos, the WWE resident historian, the professor of all things wrestling history for WWE, had just made a comment that this was the third cage match in the history of Saturday Night's Main Event. One was with Paul Orndorff back in the 80s, and then with Hulk Hogan, which was a famous one. And then they also, Hogan and Boss Man had a cage match, and I don't know if it was around 1990. Not 45 seconds later, Jesse Ventura comes out with this gem. They would have never shown this match on TV 35 years ago. And I'm like, all right, Jesse's like my dad's age. He's mid-70s. I'm going to give him a pass.
So the match to bleed.
Yeah. So the match goes on, and he's calling it good. And what I like about Jesse, so I'll get some good in now. Whenever Priest would have Drew down and he wouldn't go for a pin, Jesse would call him out on it. You need to get on him. You got to stay on him. Jesse was calling hey, these two guys don't want to leave the cage. And he was hyping up, and I don't know if he knew what the finish was ahead of time. And then Jesse, of course, with his relentless assault on the referees. So he's an equal opportunity critiquer of referees, because he was pretty tough on the female ref. And he brings out a thing I really like, and he talks about the count. Every ref has a different cadence, but as long as they're steady and consistent. I love that Jesse brings that out. I wish Michael and Pat and Joe and Wade would kind of be a little more honest with like critiquing of the refs. Jesse's always been great at that. So anyway, WWF back in the 80s always had the rule, 70s and 80s, that the only way to win a cage match was to escape either over the top or through the door. And sometimes they would add a stipulation that you could only go out through the door. I think it was Jimmy Snuka. They could only go out through the door. They couldn't go over the top. So Jesse was around the 80s. So he's called cage matches, which the only way, they never used to have a ref in the ring. It always stood outside and held the door. It was the doorkeeper. So then Jesse gets on Saturday Night Live after, Priest wins by walking out the cage and said, you can't win a cage match by walking out the door. And I'm like sitting there like, damn it, Jesse. Like, I've listened to you call multiple cage matches. And Jesse, I remember one time Jesse called a cage match. Both guys got in the cage. They rang the bell. And Jesse was like, well, if it was me, I would just ask for the door and go right out the door. Like, I ain't staying around. And then on Saturday night's main event, he's like, you walk out the cage door. And I'm not trying to give away the finish because I know we're going to talk about the finish.
Oh, we can go into the finish now because, there was... I
did not like the finish.
I hated the finish. And here's...
Not the concerto. I'm fine with the concerto. And that is why we didn't see the extra violence in the John Cena R-Truth match, because for network TV, that was a pretty violent spot. Especially, a quote, head chair shot, even though it never touches head. But
yeah, so this goes back to the original thing I talked about when prefacing this match, which was, okay, there's outside stuff affecting this match. Here's the problem, right? This was a blow-off match in a steel effing cage. I don't care that you can't draw blood because you're on NBC. I don't care. You had to make it better. Yes, you got the concerto in. There had to be about 6,000 other better ways to write that off than him walking out of the cage.
Yep.
Honestly, if he would have went in, again, NBC, I get it. But, if he would have went back in, chair shot at him twice more, and then walked out with a purpose.
Yes.
No problems with that match. The fact that he came out, looked back, bloop. I think some writer somewhere in his head saw that as this is going to be so dramatic and cinema filled. It was shit.
Yeah. So I agree. If you're going to walk out of the cage, like you would say, go back and hit Drew a couple more times with the chair. Or you know what? Yeah. Or, because Drew is basically out. And then you walk out and be like, you know what? It is emphatic that he knocked him out. He's done. But then he hit him once, which is, it definitely did put him out. Storyline. But then to walk out is just kind of wimpy. If he would have done that concerto and then stared at Drew and then walked to the cage door and then stopped and looked up and said, no, I'm going to climb out over the top, I think it would have made a better statement. Or the way really I would have wrote it was, you hit him with the concerto, you roll him over, you put a knee on his chest, and the ref just calls Drew lifeless out. It's a dominant victory because of the concerto. Drew's out. Doesn't make Priest look like a bitch walking out the cage.
He did. He did. It really hurt him.
It was a bitch move, yeah. And the fans, you heard the fans, it was almost like we heard a double turn, because when Priest hit the concerto and then walked out in the ring, the crowd was not happy.
No, because it was an open-ended sentence. That's what he did. It was an open-ended sentence. There was no exclamation point, no period, no question mark, nothing. It was a sentence without any punctuation at the end. And it was so effing vague because, there was about six... Honestly, here's the simplest way you could have closed out that match and actually had it be something, right? You ready for this? Here's how it goes. You do the concerto. Throw the chair onto Drew and walk out with a purpose. Don't ho-hum. Be like, F you, I'm out. Boom. Instead of a mic drop, it's a chair drop, and you walk out. Boom. Done.
And he moved at the pace of an Undertaker's entrance, getting out, walking out the cage.
That really was the main problem with it, because he moved with no sense of urgency. And it wasn't, you didn't want him to run out of the ring because he would have looked like a bitch.
No, but he could have walked with a purpose. He could have turned around, done the wipe the sweat on you, flick it off, done with you, pal. Out the door. Don't pause at the steps. Just jump down the steps to the cage. And
Dust
then just,
your hands off, something. He didn't do shit.
No,
and
he didn't make
terrible.
And here's another thing, the concerto, we say don't have a problem with it, but That Concerto, that was a really heelish move. And
Good.
Drew already has a decent baby. He's got a good solid fan base. So there's probably some people that are like on the fence with Drew and like, well, he kind of does. He's a bad guy, but he speaks the truth. Like he whines a little bit about it, but there's
He's
nugget of
been
truth.
kind of walking that fine line. He's like
Right.
one of those wrestlers
And Drew's a
where
likable. He's a likable guy too because we appreciate his talent, what he does. So he's likable. So really, it just made Priest look like a heel, and now Drew's like the sympathetic baby face because now he's got trainers looking at him, and he's selling the crap out of getting hit the concerto. Like his hands are shaking as he's trying to grab
yeah,
the rope. He's selling it. But with the way he sold it, like it made me have sympathy for the character. You don't want to have your heel,
I think
one of
he's
your
going
big
on a face.
heels.
I think he's coming back as a face. I
I
really
think.
think
Oh yeah.
he's been kind of like the crowd and him have slowly, like the dial's been slowly
Well,
turning.
he gets the
And
Drew McIntyre chance, the fans, because they respect what he does, like and that's why wrestling fans are different nowadays. Because you used to have your black and white, everybody hated, very few people would root for the bad guys back in the old days, and then we had the Attitude Era with things you had black and white, and then you had 50 Shades of Gray, not like the movie, but I'm just saying, like, people were always walking the fine line, and it got muddled, and then ruthless aggression, you kind of had more definitive faces and heels, and then the PG era, it was back to, good guys and bad guys. Now we're getting it, we're just, good guys can play bad guys play good guys, but now the fans are smarter because they get on the internet and all this stuff, and they understand, like, he might be a bad guy, but he's a great athlete. He's a good wrestler. And then they watch the short clips of them playing with their dogs and their kids at home and doing Make-A-Wish and stuff. And it's like, well, I like him. Like, he plays a bad character, but, like, he's a good dude. Like, I'd have a beer with him and hang out with him. So it's hard to boo that guy. So the fans have changed. They
I
respect
think
talent.
I think you're adding an excellent point on this. We've talked about this in past episodes. So this new series they're coming out with where they're going to do the behind the scenes on the storytelling. I think you hit the nail on the head why you can get away with. I know a lot of the older guys aren't big fans of this, right? Like peeling back the curtain on how we go
Hmm.
through our process, right? Here's the thing though. We all know
Yeah.
we consume so much like social media and interactions with the wrestlers now. This isn't the old days where you get your wrestling magazine and you're thumbing through and you're, catching up that way. You have it on
And
tape.
all those magazines were all kayfabe written too, so
Correct.
it's not like now it's all behind this. Back then you didn't get glimpses into private life. Or if they did, they would mix kayfabe in with it, so you never got a pure look at what somebody was really like or knew what they were like. Where now it's different.
And that's really the important thing. That's why they can get away with this. I'm going
Yes.
to be honest with you. That's why they can get away with showing how the process is behind the scenes because we've all consumed and been seeking it out, right? Like this podcast is fostered from that because we knew that stuff goes on in real life. Wow, week ending. Why did they go that route with Drew? Drew's taking time off. Okay. Like in the big picture, in the kayfabe world, it made no sense. In the real world, mixed in with
Yep.
kayfabe, you went, Drew needs time off. We had to write him off. And so that all made sense in that aspect of it. So I really think that as we go through this, we need to understand that like sometimes it's okay now. It's okay.
Yep.
And you know, and it's okay to say those things. I think you see it a lot with the arguments too. So, like, I'm sure you've encountered this person. Somehow, some way, get into a conversation where you're like, "Yeah, I'm a huge wrestling fan," and you'll get those people that have their 1980s like their 1980s like vision of what wrestling is, and they go, it's all scripted, right? And you're just like, yeah, like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like nowadays, like back in the day, it's not like telling kids that certain entities no longer exist, right?
Right.
You're
We
like,
already got
you
told the
are,
truth about that.
but but
Yeah.
but my point is that like when you do that, when people come at you like that, you're now just going like they're like right? Like yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Because I always said the same. I've said the same thing about wrestling for years. It's a male soap opera. That's
Yeah.
all it is. It's fine. You know, this is General Hospital for dudes. You know, it's fine. There's stories there. You're following the stories. You know, I mean, there are times in the Vince era where it really was a soap opera. You know, we'll talk about Sexual Chocolate and you know, what's her name back in the day, but that was
Oh,
a
May Young.
Mae Young. Like, but my point is that wrestling is, you know, and it's not just a dude's soap opera anymore. It's just a soap opera for, you know, a different type, and that's fine. You're talking about generations that grew up on stuff of the real world and Road Rules Challenge and all those MTV shows that were a thing. Now reality TV is a ton of
Six
what's
hundred
out there.
pound wife, yeah, not 90 day fiance, all that stuff. So yeah,
Yeah,
it's reality show and it's storyline. So like when I get people that say, "Oh, you do a wrestling podcast," if I gotta be honest, like I'm pretty outspoken about being a wrestling fan, but then like to tell like family and some people I was like, "Yeah, I do a WWE podcast now," and they're like, "Really?" And I'm like, and I said, "It's about the stories." And yeah, I'm an old school fan, and I think I've said this in the past. I love what going on YouTube. I can get lost watching wrestling from the 80s. But now for me, it's nostalgic because I know everything evolves. We talked about how all sports have evolved, so I don't want to go back down that rabbit hole. And I understand why some people are so stuck because it's almost like a religion to them. And it's like the wrestling purists, the wrestling in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. That's when wrestling was real, even though it wasn't, but to them it was real. Vince ripped the cover off, so he wouldn't have to fall under athletic commissions, and we all got told the story. It upset a lot of those purists, and they never got over it. And then Vince in WCW then decided to insult our intelligence by doing silly characters and unrealistic storylines. But now the focus now is the storylines and the stories and the characters behind the stories and the 5 W's, the who, what, where, when, why. That's what draws you in because we like stories. And so you watch a 3 hour show. It's not like a 3 hour movie. It's like 6 to 8 like different little shows, shows within a show. So it doesn't go too long where you don't lose your attention. You can follow up, and they put stuff in there that makes you want to watch it next week, like a regular TV show would. Like, yeah, you don't want to miss next week because something's going to happen, or it may not be next week. You might have to wait 2 weeks, but you don't want to miss next week just in case. So,
damn it, Matt. Who shot Jake?
yeah, exactly. So if you get into the stories and like honestly, I'm up here with my father-in-law and he's watched a few episodes and he's gonna watch SmackDown and he just said like he goes, wow, he goes, the women wrestlers are incredible. So, people watch it now, and I think that it's not a bunch of fat guys with beer guts and, face paint and also, the garbage man and all the stupid repo man and all those characters, it's not cartoonish anymore.
Thank
It's
God for the Attitude Era, because
yeah.
that was the catalyst that got rid of all that.
But then the Attitude Era also turned away a lot of fans because then it was too over the top with the language and the sexuality and all that. And that alienated another group of fans like, wrestling's not supposed to be like that. Now they're crapping all over this with the language and stuff. And so, but if you look throughout all the wrestling history, it changes. There's errors at all times.
For
And
sure.
and we're actually starting to see it if you actually sit and you study and watch the wrestling. Yeah, we still see a lot of the flippity flop gymnastics, but we're starting to see a lot more of that mat based chain wrestling, like the ring psychology. I've noticed it's like now moves are the psychology behind the moves.
The
That's why I
psychology.
get on when wrestlers like work an arm and they're working arm for like 2 minutes and then they start working a leg. And like they're getting better at like if they're working a body part, they stay with it. So psychology's coming in. So for all you old school fans, you're gonna start seeing, I think, some old school type wrestling. I think they first of all, it's less wear and tear on their bodies because they're not doing as much high impact. But if you can sell an armbar and act like he's ripping your shoulder out of socket, and you can draw the fans into that, you don't have to hurt yourself by doing so much flippity floppy. And when you do flippity floppy, it's that much more impressive because it's not in your face as much. So,
I will say, to piggyback on the one thing that I will be forever thankful to Triple H for is since he has taken over, the ring psychology has improved tenfold.
Yes.
It makes sense. What goes on in the ring most times makes sense. A lot of this stuff, it either makes sense in the ring just to give you a good match, or it makes sense from a storyline perspective. And I don't want to crap on Vince because he did a lot of good, but like towards the end, everything was so effing predictable, and it was like he ran out of new tricks, and he just had like, you know, the old joke that he just had a bunch of index cards on the, you know, or ping pong balls, like, and there's gonna be interference, and it's gonna be Big Show. Like, Big Show has nothing to do with that wrestler. It's going to be Big Show. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it became so just predictable. You were just like, here comes the interference. And that, honestly, like, that was my main problem at the end of the Roman Reigns era Bloodline storyline was everything just became so predictable in the PLEs. It was just like, wow, this match is going. Oh, Drew might have a shot. Oh, look, the interference is here. Oh, look, Sammy might have a shot. Do you think they'll pull the trigger? He's in his home country. Blah blah blah. Oh, interference. Check.
Yeah, that crowd would get so up, and it got towards the end. You like, as soon as the interference started, you could just like feel the air deflate out of that arena, and you could hear an audible groan because they just like, well, that's it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, and that's really the thing, right?
yeah,
All right,
took
folks.
our joy.
We got derailed, but I think it was a good diatribe.
Yeah,
there. Let's close out the Saturday night commercial event. You know, in between commercials, they squeezed in a little bit of Logan Paul and Jey Uso.
Like 7 minutes.
So, first off, it was decent for a short match. It was actually an entertaining match. And, you know, Cena came out. Cena did things. Look, okay. Yeah, I mean, look, Saturday night main event basically just set up stuff for Money in the Bank, right? Like, am I seeing this wrong here? Like, that was the whole point. And, again, it is what it is. So, look, if you accept Saturday night's main event for what it was okay. I think if they would have cut the commercials in half, and that's not asking a lot, you still get a lot of commercials. If they cut the commercials down in half, I think you get a little better product. That product they pushed out is not going to bring one new damn fan to the WWE for nothing about the in-ring work. It was just so excessive with commercials, they hurt their product.
Yeah. And I was a little disgusted that we didn't hit ring intros for the main event until 10 minutes till the end of the hour. And, I mean, NBC let them go over. I think they went over like a minute or so.
They went commercial, and then they did intros, and then they went to commercial again. It's just like...
Yeah. And then you only got about, what, 6-7 minutes of in-ring action before the interference?
It was ridiculous. It was
especially
just so... I get it. You got to pay the bills. That was too much.
Well, they didn't do Jey Uso or Logan Paul any favors.
No, they didn't do anybody any favors.
Because I really think that could have been a good match. And I think, you know, could have been another showcase for Logan Paul. Definitely could. It didn't. And people are crapping on the Jey Uso title reign. I'm not. I like the Jey Uso title reign. He's growing. Yep, he's growing. But they didn't help him by limiting him on such a short match.
No, but you hit on this last week, right? Like, they have a forecasted path for him now, and I think it's pretty solid, right? Like, before, I mean, stop and think about it. Like, before he even had his match with, you know, the usual ebb and flow for championships are, I'm going to be your opponent in a couple of weeks. Cool. You win. Hi, I'm your next opponent. And they said, F that. All right, you go against Logan Paul, and right after that, you're going against Gunther. And, like, I like that because it was like...
Oh, and then you got Seth Rollins afterwards when he says he wins Money in the Bank. Or
I think he does, but I don't want to get into that, but I think he does.
It's logical, yeah.
I can make a lot of arguments why Seth goes over in Money in the Bank. But anyways, I say we wrap up Saturday night's main event.
And really one quick thing I want to give, and then I'm done with Saturday night's main event. What it lacked in actual, like, the wrestling matches itself, and then with all the commercials, what they did do good is bringing back Bronson Reed. That was a shocker for me. I didn't project it.
He wasn't on my bingo card.
Actually, I had somebody on one of our TikTok videos, like we were talking about the third man, had mentioned Austin Theory. And I'm like, well, why not? I'm like, that would kind of be cool to see what they do Austin Theory. So I'm like, and I even ran it by you. And then when they brought Bronson Reed out, I'm like, oh my God, that's perfect guy to bring out.
Well,
Even with the backstory with him and Seth, that was really good. And then
that's
the way they brought Cody back at the end of Saturday Night Live, the fans go home happy. We have a Cody moment with the match set for Money in the Bank with Cody and Jay against Logan Paul and oh my gosh,
Cena.
who's Logan? Cena. Yes, thank you. Yeah, I even got it in my notes that are over there. I mean, that'll be a fun match. It was a good way to bring Cody back. So, other than the first match of the night and some of the cage match, really they did a great job of bringing people back in and pushing, like elevating the Seth Rollins group. Which I hope they come up with a name for that faction. They need to.
I've heard a couple of things bantered around. I can't remember any of them. Something will happen. Something will stick.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
I
fine.
think I think they'll do that once they get because I really think there's going to be Becky could come over at some point, but I really think at some point there's going to be a fourth guy just because factions always seem to work good when there's four.
Well, I think you want to set up that faction. My perfect size faction is a men's world champion, a women's world champion, tag champions, and a mid card champion.
Yeah.
Judgment Day was kind of toying with that a little bit. I
Yep.
was like, that would be ball. That makes, but I don't think Judgment Day was ready because when I talk that piece, you're talking big time
Yeah.
faction. Like you're talking something that's as astronomical as what it was like Flair, Batista,
Yep.
you know what I mean? Like you're talking something big. And I think when you hit that level of awesomeness, it has to be big. So if you get Seth with a belt, bring in Becky, and then either or Bronson Reed, I think with those two, I hate to say this because it's a waste of talent, but I think you make them if you accidentally slip the tag team title on them, like it's not meant to be an enduring thing. You don't expect them to last as a tag team. You just put tag team titles on them, and then you bring in one last person to take that mid card. Because Bronson Reed could take the mid card, but I don't think Braun Breaker's world championship material right now.
Yeah.
Reed would definitely look good with an IC or a United States title. But yeah, so no, I'm happy Reed's back. I've been a big Reed fan. I don't need to hear him called, Big Bronson Reed or whatever the hell they use.
Yeah. Watch the TV. He's a big dude. Like, yeah.
Yeah, got it.
Bronson Reed is fine. But
It was the same thing they did with Braun Strowman. He's one big SOB. Like, yes, we get it. He's a big
Yeah.
boy. It's okay.
and it sounds dumb.
Yeah.
Actually,
childish.
It took me a while to get used to Seth freaking Rollins. Like, I thought that was one of the dumbest names in a long time, but Seth kind of took that and rolled it into part of his character and made it really good. But we're going to talk a little bit more about Seth when we get to Raw, because Seth plays a big part in the Raw episode. So,
well, since we're on to Raw, let's go to Raw. All right, so we got into Raw and we kicked it off with a Seth promo. Number one thing in this Seth promo is we got the why Bronson Reed. And that was the biggest damn thing I wanted out of that, because everybody was kind of like, well, last time we saw him, he did not beat the crap out of Seth. Why is he here? And there's a little bit of this turning your enemies into friends. And like I said, like nobody fathomed it, and I think the way Heyman sold it at Saturday Night's main event, he didn't fathom it, and he was just like, okay. And then like Seth hugs him, and he's like, look at that. And Heyman carried a lot of water in this promo in the upfront part, because Reed looked natural, and he looked right in that group. I'm going through my notes here because this was all real time as I was writing. I was like, Heyman is a genius. Heyman put Reed over big, and he did put Reed over big.
Yeah.
He made you understand why Reed's such a force. There was a nice part in there about, we'll talk more about Seth's benevolence, but like there was a point where the sacrifice Rollins made for you by having Bronson Reed as part of it, like, he forgave him. There's a little bit of the, like, his character right now is like such a hybrid of like his past 5 freaking characters.
the Messiah, that's the Messiah thing. He's the benevolence, the forgiveness of the Messiah.
He's
You
the
know,
architect.
yeah.
He's the visionary. Like all of that is just like it's like
Now he's the
somebody
revolutionary because he's going to save pro wrestling. So he's being a revolutionary. So he's
somebody
playing
put
all
him
those
in a
names.
blender and they all came out together. It is so cool with him. And like you gotta appreciate the little crap with Seth.
And Paul referred to Seth as the architect as well
He
in that
did,
film.
and I had that in my notes. The epitome of epiphany. I don't know why I love this line from Paul so much, but when he said that, I was just like, I love that line. Like, if you've ever seen A Knight's Tale, the guy that ends up announcing, for the knight guy, but he would string together all these frilly, words. And when Paul Heyman had that moment, he was the announcer for the night, right? Like he was the epiphany or the epitome of the epiphany, and it was beautiful, the greatest. It was like hitting. It was like hitting the insta heal button in this promo was when Heyman told the crowd to acknowledge Seth. That
Yeah.
crowd flipped on Seth in 2 seconds flat. Like it was beautiful. It was so good. And like I was like, we're getting some heat now. And like that heat came quick. It
Yeah. It
was like
was.
somebody turned the burner up from 1 to 10.
Yeah.
Like
It
as
was an
soon as
fu to
Paul
the
said it,
fans, and it's an fu to Roman Reigns at the same time.
Seth is putting over guys right now, and I love it. Guys that Braun Breaker doesn't need to get put over. He's over. He's good. But he's also he's making Reed. Reed was on the upswing. Let's not forget, he got hurt in, a match, bloodline rules kind of stuff. And
Yeah, he jumped off the top of the War Games cage through a table and
yeah,
snapped his elbow, or tore his ankle, or snapped his ankle. Yeah, we thought he was going to be
um,
out longer. We didn't see him coming back this soon.
this Seth Rollins story is so good, though. It is so freaking good because Seth is becoming what he hates. Watch what he does. He is becoming Roman Reigns. Like, he is slowly but surely turning himself into Roman Reigns. Like, he totally is.
Yeah, his ego's out of control. He's got to run everything. It's all going to be his way. And I know where you're getting to. At some point, he's going to start crapping on his cronies, Braun and
I don't think
Bronson.
he
Not
will.
right away, but maybe not as oblivious as Roman, but there'll be subtleties. They'll get Seth will take opportunities possibly that could have gone to him, and he'll take them for himself. So he'll it'll be subtle because eventually
I,
Braun's going to have to break away and do world title stuff, and he can't do it if he's tied with Seth because Seth wants to be the world titles
well,
holder. So
Braun breaking away is going to be the equivalent of Batista turning on Triple H, right? Like that's
yeah,
eventually what's going to happen. That moment is going to happen. Like we all know that's going to happen, and I know. But the point is that like this faction right now, what I like about it is it's not crusty ass old dudes getting together to make a faction. It is one senior vet guy bringing in young talent to give him the rub to push him over, and that's beautiful. We had Fu Rollins. I had Fu Rollins, nice heat, and he did a great job of
yeah,
flipping that. Heyman, this goes. You and I were talking off, recording about this. Heyman conducting the crowd and Seth playing the crowd like freaking puppets. He worked them into a frenzy, and he was like, "You were just booing me 2 seconds ago. Sing my song, fuckers."
yep.
Pardon my language. But
Nope,
yeah, it's essentially what he
that's
did.
what it
He
was.
was like, I loved everything about this promo
He's
so
like he's the
freaking much.
maestro. He's conducting the orchestra. He's playing the people.
Well, Heyman's just
Yeah,
in the background, and they all picked up on it, and they just like sheep went, "Whoop. Okay, we'll sing your song." Like, but you were just telling me F you like a minute ago. And then, like, my last note on this whole promo is Seth played the crowd like a fiddle. Like, I have no beefs about this entire promo because it did so much. It was so well done. And some people are going to look at it and really kind of be like, whatevs, But no, there was a lot of meat in there that people really need to realize that, like, there was a lot to this story that really advance this story in this promo. And I'll get off that soapbox now.
Seth was great. Like you said, the way he played the crowd. And like I was telling you off camera before, I said, if you and I were at the arena, we'd be singing his song and chanting his name, but we wouldn't be booing him because
No.
we like Seth. And I tend to root for a lot of used to. Now I just like pretty much everybody. But anyway, what I really liked about that whole promo is like they got him singing. Seth runs down the crowd again, and what's the last thing he does? He holds up his mic and said, "Because I am Seth," and the crowd does the freaking Rollins. So like he gets like one last shot. Like, see, you're gonna do it regardless, no matter how bad or nasty I can be. You're gonna sing my song. You're gonna chant my name. You're gonna worship me. And so another thing Sean brought up a point was offline was the character that Seth has now is a configuration of, like you said, the Messiah and all that stuff. So he blends them all in so seamlessly too.
Yeah.
Because he can go from being talk about being a revolutionary, but then talk about that benevolence and how I'm going to save wrestling. But then he goes off into the architect. It's just he plays it so well. It's almost, I don't want to say it's Mick Foley level, but like he can blend into those things like how Mick used to blend into Cactus and Mankind, and
I think it's beautiful though, because I think for like back in the day, like you would hear Bully Ray on Busted Open talk about this, like, and LaGreca too, where they kind of crapped on Seth because they didn't get the character. And now what you're seeing is that like all those characters where you're like, I don't get it. One thing I haven't talked about yet, and I don't think I touched on this yet, Bronson Reed's in black, everybody's in black. The one person's outfit that has kind of changed subtly, but importantly, is Seth. Seth is still a little over the top, but ever since this little faction started, all of a sudden now, his outfits are a little more reserved. Not reserved for him, right? Like, we didn't just, how do I put this? Like, he's still wearing flashy stuff, but he's not at, like, it's like back in the day where, like, you would see fashion models and she's wearing like a lampshade and like some other crazy crap, like Zoolander type shit, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, Drew, Seth.
But Seth would wear this like just incredibly over the top.
He looked like a float at the Rose.
Yeah.
Parade, on New Year's Day.
But now his stuff is more functional.
Yep.
I did get a little bit of arrogance. He's been wearing that chain consistently with his, S for Seth Rollins, and it's a big gaudy chain. He probably borrowed it from Carmelo Hayes, for the thing that Miz gave him. But like
they didn't melt down Dre, did they?
No, I think they went to the same jeweler.
Don't melt down Dre.
I love that. I love that so much. But
yeah,
there's a lot of important stuff.
It's more business. Like it's a group. It's a faction thing. Like you go back and you look at the Four Horsemen. They were always dressed in suits. They were always, looked classy with the Rolex watches and all that stuff. So now you got Braun Breaker wearing a suit, like looking like they look like hitmen. Him and Bronson look like hitmen.
Yes, and they look like if hitmen and bouncers had a baby. It would be Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker.
Yeah. Like they look scary. Like I wouldn't want to run into them in a dark alley. Like they do. They look they look like mafia hitmen with the the suits and the look, But there's an element of class to it still because they're not just wearing, a t-shirt and black jeans like he's wearing a sports jacket. They look professional.
No, they look sharp, and it like really, like I said, Braun Breaker didn't need much, right? Like he's got a kind of the bloodline, he's got kind of the everything going for him. He's an incredible wrestler, right? Bronson Reed's an incredible wrestler, but his character was always kind of and just three little things they did. One was having him come out at Saturday night's main event. Two was putting him in a suit. And three was putting him in that faction. Those three things took Bronson Reed, who was a character that was just kind of, build your own character on 2K25, to like, he's something now. I don't know why, it just gave him a personality, and it's great. Like, it gave him a character, like a real character, not just somebody that does 6,000 tsunamis on somebody. Like, and he hasn't said shit. Like, he hasn't done much, but just that little bit of rub and
Yep.
just getting in that faction and just all that matters, man. Because, like, I look at Bronson Reed totally differently now. Not fully, because his in ring work is awesome. It's just now the character is starting to come along with the in ring work, and it took was a suit, an interference, and joining a faction. Those three things happened, and now Bronson Reed is a thing.
So they always talk about, when the storms of life happen, there's always a silver lining. Do you think it was a blessing in disguise that Bronson Reed got hurt and got healthy just as his faction was kicking off? That we were talking before he got hurt, the 2 months before he got hurt, that's when he was Tsunami and Seth and hurting everybody, and then he was in the War Games match, and he was getting a solid push. They were starting to associate him with top higher level guys, and all of a sudden now he gets hurt. Instead of coming back into something, he like Rusev didn't come back into a major program.
No. No,
I mean, and I'm not, again, we're not dissing Rusev because Rusev's awesome. I love Rusev. But now, I mean, you've really legitimized by Bronson, where coming off injury, where he had momentum going into that injury, he come back and now he's not only is he with Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker, he's a Paul Heyman guy now. And
Yeah,
so with Bronson, he's going to sit under that learning tree under Seth and under Paul, especially he's going to have a lot of probably one-on-one time with Paul, as they travel, and it's a big plus for Bronson. But I also think for Braun, and I agree he's world champion material, but I think just having that association with Paul and Seth, I think that's even going to be a learning experience for him, and it's going to make him even better when the time comes to throw the world championship on him, whether it be, and I hope it's the working man's championship. I hope it's not the cinnamon title. It's got to be. It's got to be the big gold. It's got to be big gold belt.
I think the cinema title's just going to rotate around on SmackDown between
Yeah.
a handful of folks.
Well, I'm still thinking the draft, and right now maybe
Oh yeah.
I wouldn't mind if they forego the draft and just
Not in
maybe
a rush.
instead of the draft, just have like a free agent season where you have a block where you can only trade like a few people from one to the other. So maybe we do a trade, and that's how you get a couple of tag teams from SmackDown to come to the Raw SmackDown to elevate that. Rather than just doing the draft and switching like 70% of the roster, allow them to have like hey, there's a trade deadline, and you can only trade X amount of people, and that's it.
I reserve judgment on the draft until the draft happens.
Yeah.
When I see how it hangs out, then I'll worry about it, because I think the draft is a huge indicator of storylines and certain things. And I think right now, we're kind of reluctant to change anything because some of the stuff is gaining clarity and some of the stuff is really flowing right now. So I think
Me personally, I think 90% of the roster's on the right show right now, so I don't want to mess up that dynamic.
No,
The majority,
I don't. I don't think you need to move it either because they've done a good job building them up. And let me tell you, a couple of people they've been building up to Chad Gable and Dragon Lee.
yeah. Hey, can I make a real quick point before my old ass, like messed up veteran mind forgets it? So Drew McIntyre's going away for a while. Drew McIntyre doesn't have anything really lined up. When Drew McIntyre returns, do you throw him on Raw, and do you have him be brought in by Seth Rollins to be part of that group?
It
Or
depends.
do because we talked about them being like Seth being a true sayer and Drew being a true.
So here's the complication, right? And it's kind of the Bronson Reed effect of what we were just talking about, right? So Bronson Reed obviously was getting a push. He definitely was getting a push because he was tied in. He got touched by the Golden Hand of the Bloodline storyline, right? He's part of that storyline. So he got that little push, and I think he was going to be in the. I wouldn't be surprised if Jesse Ventura is kind of filling that story arc that was meant for Bronson Reed. But the good news for Bronson Reed is they know what's there. They just had to find a different way to go. So they put him with Seth, and that's great. So as far as Drew goes, it's tough because I think Drew's coming back as a face. So he was already kind of getting the crowd going that way, and now that he's going to be gone, what's going to happen? his music's going to hit in a couple of months and everybody's going to go like,
And
just like they do for Roman or, anybody else that comes back. It's like, oh my God, they're awesome, until
yeah.
they become a heel. Like, it's fine. It's just, it's
Well,
important to keep that in
well,
mind.
well, it just popped in my head too. And then while you're talking, I'm listening and thinking too. If you add Drew over to that Raw roster, you pulled a key player away from SmackDown, and who are you going to backfill him with? And then Drew's like another guy that's world contender shot. So if you got Seth going after the world title, and Braun's like right there, now Drew, where's he going to fit in? You can't put him with a tag with Bronson. You can't have him go at a mid-level title. So anyway, it may or may not
Could
work.
have. He was. I
I
mean, he was
so
going for the U.S. title, so.
Yeah, but I think fans want to see him and Fatu go after it. But if Fatu becomes a face, we probably won't see. I don't know. It just depends how they book him, and we don't know how long Drew's out for. So
Yeah.
and honestly, Sean and I do this a lot on the phone, folks. We'll just get off on little random things. Some will pop in our heads, and we'll get it out. We'll talk about it. So this is kind of one of those instances, but. I'm kind of thinking the Austin Theory joining and maybe
I hope so. The problem is he needs to do his burn off with
Grayson Waller. Yeah.
Grayson Waller. So
Yeah, but
will that be fun?
but also with Austin, he's kind of turning face, so it kind of would.
Well, no, that works out because Waller's still a heel. Waller's should be a heel. The
Right.
problem is that with Austin Theory, you have to pry yourself away from that, and the only way to do that is them have a burn off match between the
Right.
two.
But if Austin turns face by him joining the Seth faction would turn him heel. So
And that's fine.
yeah,
There's a place for that too. And it would be I think part of the nice thing about it is that the character changes that happen within the character changes that can happen within that faction, right? Like nothing so far, but you could move the goofy Austin Theory and next thing you know he's in a black suit and all serious. We all knew they were getting a third guy. It just was a question of who.
Yeah.
And like it is what it is. But I don't want to turn this into a stand, I do have a comment on something though that I've seen on social media lately and I really got to get it out because it pertains to Seth's faction. There was factions before the bloodline. Hear my words, read my lips. Before the bloodline, factions still existed. Therefore, factions that happen after the bloodline do not need to be the bloodline. Like, it's been going around lately, and like everybody's like, well, still his faction's still not as good as the bloodline. I'm like, the bloodline wasn't great out the gate. Like that's a story took some time to cook.
Yep.
But the point is that it doesn't all have to be the bloodline. Like I want something different. I'm getting something different right now.
Yeah.
And they're taking this in a different route. They're not running interference for the champion. They're trying to get the championship. They're trying to collect gold. They're trying to beat up people. Let it go. It's okay. The bloodline's still a thing. It's okay. But like for freaking crying out loud, not all factions were the bloodline. It's like holy crap, some of these people
It's
they're
like comparing DX to Evolution. Like there's no comparison.
no,
Different
it's
faction.
fine.
Yeah.
They're all different things. And this Seth one, if you give it time, is going to be a thing. But I had one of my favorite matches of the night on Raw. It was Penta, Chad Gable, and Dragon Lee. First note out of the gate, Penta is over. Like, Penta is crazy over. And the only reason I bring that up is, like, it applies to Rey Fenix and it applies to Penta, right? A lot of people that are in the IWC really kind of instantaneously go, he's not getting a push. Anytime one of them gets pinned, like they're going to go Goldberg like 100 billion and 0. No, they're going to lose, and that's fine. They're going to take pins. That's fine. Like, these guys are so effing good and crazy over. Like, honestly, I think Penta's over more than Rey Fenix right now. Like, everybody likes Rey Fenix. Penta's over. Big time. And I think there was such a great irony that Chad Gable's Money in the Bank qualifier match was against not one, but 2 luchadors. Beautiful booking. Beautiful booking. Perfect.
Yeah. I love this match. I loved everything about it. You know, Gable, the 2 luchadors tag teaming on Gable and kicking him around and kicking each other around. I think the guy that shone the most in that match was Dragon Lee. Dragon Lee put on an incredibly impressive performance. Just some of the dragon double stomp into the destroyer, into the penta driver. The finish was just like, and it was, I mean, it was bim bam boom, but it was like so smooth. It wasn't herky jerky. It was fantastic match. And actually, there was a point in it, like, I had a feeling Penta was going over, but there was some times too. It was like, are they going to give Dragon Lee in this? And then, of course, then the fan of me thinks the Dragon Lee thing, but then like the one who sits on a podcast and we talk about stories, like if Dragon Lee winning this match going to Money in the Bank, how does that really enhance anything? Like
It
you
does.
need, that PLE Penta needs to be in a ladder match. I think it's important, and
You know something we
Penta
don't
won.
talk about when it comes to Penta enough? Penta sells like a mofo.
Yeah,
Like I picked up on it in this match. I was like, dude, Penta's selling.
he worked from
And
underneath like most of the match. He was really,
yeah, Penta was selling his butt off. Gable got dropped on his face.
yep.
That was another one. And at one moment, I thought Dragon Lee died because when he did his missile thing off the side, he shot across the announcer table like a damn bullet.
Yeah.
And holy crap. It was a great ending. I think it was the match of the night, to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
Yeah, I think I had my highest rating of the night. Yes. Yep. It was. I gave it an A minus. I thought it was. I thought it was a really solid match, and yeah, I'm glad Penta won because he had experienced a couple of losses over the last couple of 3 weeks. So yeah, IWC. See, Penta's in the Money in the Bank ladder match. Will he win the Money in the Bank ladder match? Probably not.
No.
But you
No.
still have elevated by putting him in that position where he's competing for an opportunity. So yeah, Penta's got to be fine. It'll be really fine when they reunite the Lucha Bros and when they do that
Yep.
down the line. But for right now, we're seeing Penta every week. Like, why are you complaining? So what if he loses now and again? You're seeing him every week. They're showcasing him. Who else is
He's got pyro.
who else is wrestling? Who else is wrestling every week on Raw?
He's got pyro.
Yeah,
Like, one of the greatest indicators that you are important, you get fireworks. And he's got fireworks. So let's get over it.
So
Like, Penta's big.
that fella's important.
Yeah. So after that, we get like this Judgment Day and Liv returns. And my whole take on Liv returns is I texted you and I go, has it been a month already? I got it. We're going to get the drama between her and Roxanne Perez and Dirty Dom doing Dirty Dom things. It's just like, yeah, okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say about that. I didn't have anything really enhanced
No.
on there.
Dom's funny because he got his chicken nuggets and then.
So after that,
Hey, Dom, for one like ugly dude with a bad mullet and a cheesy mustache, that guy gets like storyline
game.
more. He gets more tail storyline.
game.
He does. Dom's a ladies' man. Like,
What is it? Machismo.
yeah,
So after that, we get to the Tozawa's gonna die match between him and Rusev. I think that's how I texted it to you.
Yeah.
Too. I put that was short, and then they changed Sheamus's music, and it threw me off.
I don't like the new music by Shane.
I don't care because I like a little change every now and
Yeah.
again, but like it threw me off. It went, and I was like, who, what? Yeah, they changed his music.
Well, that's good. I think Sheamus and Rusev will be fun to watch just for the physicality when it happens. It'll be fun. Yeah, I guess I understand why they had Tozawa and Rusev. Now that it was to bring Sheamus back, but like, did he hurt Otis that bad by having what's the submission hold, the acolyte?
I need something out of Alpha Academy. I don't know what yet, but we need to move forward. I think Maxine Dupree is awesome as a manager. I think that because she still has some in-ring ability-ish, I think that can still be used, but just keep her as a manager. And let her just they need some W's. Like, I'm being honest. That group needs some W's. They just can't be the whipping bitches forever. They're too talented.
Especially not Otis for being for a big guy for the stuff he does.
He's so good.
He is.
He really is good for a big dude, and he gets misused. So like, I really need some Otis love out there. So after that, I know you're not gonna care, but I'm a huge Burt Kreischer fan, and like, seeing Burt Kreischer and Tom Segura on, I get it. They're Netflix affiliated, so they're getting their Netflix rub, which has kind of became a Netflix advertiser. Oh, you got a new show coming out on Netflix? You should go watch Raw, and we're going to put you on TV to say, you got a new upcoming show, which is fine. Here's my beef with it's not really a legit beef, but it's kind of a beef. If Sean had the pencil for this segment with Burt Kreischer and Tom Segura, when Burt Kreischer goes like scurrying off where he ends up just doing rallying cries with the War Raiders, I would have just had him go, I'll be right back, and have him deuce out and then just have somebody run over Tom Segura. Like another tag team, whatever, or just have some big team just like start shoving the smaller dude, mess with him a little bit, right? Like, I think that, like Burt saw it coming and then he was like, I'll be right back. And he saw it coming. And next thing you know, like, here comes two wrestlers. If I had the pencil, that's how I would have done it. I would have because Segura was like, I don't know, kind of here. Burt loves this, but this ain't really my gig, which is fine. I get it. Sometimes you have a buddy that drags you somewhere, but I would have written it like that because I think it would have been hilarious. It was still good, but not as much. So then we get Locker Room Jay and Sammy. This is my problem with Sammy. As much as he reinvents himself and somehow he is the major storyline leech in the world, like, we're having a big storyline. Hi, I'm Sami Zayn. I'll be entering into the fray now. Bloodline's the hotness. Hi, I'm Sami Zayn. I'll be joining the Bloodline. Oh, Seth and his faction are a big deal. Hi, what's up? CM Punk? Jay? What's going on? You remember me, Sami Zayn. It's a big storyline. I'm showing up. I'm not knocking him for that because I appreciate that he can get himself over and stay relevant. But this locker room segment kind of bored me a little bit. Because it's the whole I got your back thing. Like, dude, I've seen this 6 million times. Like, change it up. Let's go. Let's get on to something new.
Yeah, I was almost forgot that promo, and then once you started talking about it, you kind of made me remember it. I would have rather see them kind of do that I got your back thing, but in a much more fired up way where Sammy's like I'm tired of their crap. Like, we need to take him out. Like, we need to stop him before he gets rolling because they're going to ruin. He thinks he's going to save us. He's going to ruin. We need to take him out. Like, rally that way rather than just like you said, hey, I got you back. But like, little buddy, don't worry, I got you.
It was just.
I want to see some more passion, like anger passion out of Sammy. Sammy doesn't come across convincing when he gets mad. Like when KO was mad and KO would like go nuts and like have an episode. It was so believable.
Call it now. Here, I'm going to show my age because old farts is in the freaking title of this episode.
Yeah.
Damn it. Where it goes off the rails, or I think there's another saying for it now.
Going postal or something like that, or well, no, go.
No, that's so years ago.
Yeah, I know.
I just call it losing his shit, but like.
Well, you got young kids. My youngest is 22. So.
But you know what I'm saying,
yeah.
Right? Like, there's like some new phrase out there, and it's just the Kevin Owens like meltdown.
Yeah.
And I loved him because he would like. Kevin, like, when it was, like, him with the Elias Ezekiel thing, he had some of the greatest meltdowns ever because what he did was he was reiterating to you, like, what you already knew. Like, they're breaking the rules. You can't break the rules like that. Kind of. I don't want to say he broke down the fourth wall, but he broke down, like, the 3.5 wall. You know what I mean? Like,
I just want Sammy to be like, he gets beat up by people and, like, he should be madder. He should be more seeking. He needs he never wants that. You don't feel like he's trying to get revenge. Like, I want to get back at him. Like, no, if you get every time you turn around, yeah,
that's
no,
what it feels like.
It's like you've had it with this shit. Like, I'm gonna put him in the hospital. We don't get that from Sammy. Like, I want Sammy to be more passionate. I want to be more convincing that after time and time again getting screwed over, beat up, turned on. People screwed him over. Yeah. That's why I think it'd be great to have Sammy and Punk together because they've both been screwed over by various number of people over the years. So, you know what? We really can't trust anybody else. We both know how it's been to be screwed and lied to and all this stuff. Like, we know what it is like, and I'm done dealing with it, and I need a partner that's done dealing with it too. And now it's how I would unite those two, just based on the fact that we can only trust each other. and maybe Jay as needed, but right now we can only really trust each other, and we can't trust everybody else. So it's the Sammy
Well,
Punk.
you treat Jay as I got other crap going on, right?
Yeah, yeah, because Jay can't be there all the time, so you write in. But basically, it's Punk and Sammy take on the evil world. That's I just want to see more passion out of Sammy. Sammy,
I agree.
well, he's just got that like sad puppy dog look anyway. Like he
Like I
always,
said, he's got the shucks, gee whiz, go get him, Tiger.
yeah.
And it's just like, come on, bro.
But he does.
Come
He looks
on.
like a sad little puppy dog like that. You're not giving him his favorite
No,
treat at night. Like come on, like
no, I know exactly what you're saying. So after all this, we get New Day, American Made, and War Raiders. So number one out of the New Day's tribute to Giant Gonzalez. Cheers. That was a nice touch, and I appreciate Cole pointing it out too.
yes, yeah. Aesthetically, I didn't think they were good looking outfits. They've done better, but
I
just the
thought
fact that they went that deep and went to like Giant Gonzalez. I think it was tongue in cheek.
I don't think maybe
I
it
don't know
was, but it
because he was
as
such
soon
a
as as soon as Cole said Giant Gonzalez, I saw it. So like I'm not gonna knock it. As far as I know, it was planned. I liked how the heel tag teams tagged up on the face tag team.
yep. Well, it was smart because the face tag team are two behemoths, and like the rest of it, like
Yes,
yeah. So it made sense. Like, hey, let's take out the big guys. We'll worry about each other, but like let's eliminate the biggest threat, and then we can.
yeah. American Maids like in ring gear. Oof, that was rough. I didn't like it.
No,
There,
that's
there's my fashion comment of the week. One of many.
yeah. The
After I
brute.
got done talking about all of Seth's outfits,
Yeah,
but
the
and then
Brutus headband was pretty substandard too.
good heel work by the New Day. Like they
Yep.
did what they did. I mean, it wasn't epic. It was good story in the ring, but
I do. I have to say though, I like New Days as heels on this heel run. They've been entertaining.
I'm warming up to it. Like I appreciate it. I think they also need a thing. I don't know what it is yet. They just need a little more. Put a little nitrous in the tank to really get them going. I think Raw's tag division, they're trying to get it going. It's like somebody trying to like push start a car, right?
Yeah.
Like they're like, pop the clutch. Nope, not this time. Pop the clutch. Like it'll get there. I think if the Lucha Bros become a thing, I would put them on Raw.
Yep.
It'd make it exciting. So all right, so then we get a Jay promo, right? So one thing I noticed with Jay coming out lately is he's doing some Cody Rhodes, John Cena grassroots level shit, and he's just like, working the kids, right? And that's how you stay significant, and that's how you become the face of the company. I don't think Jay is ever going to be the face of the company, but it helps with your face persona. Every time eating with kids, keep
Yep.
it up, man.
Oh yeah, because guess who else likes that? The parents of that kids, or parents who have kids, or people like
And they
me
buy
who are
merch.
Yeah. Like every time we watch it every week, Christy gets so excited when Jay's yeeting and finds a kid to yeet with. She thinks that's the coolest thing. So
I love his intro so much. I turn my TV up every time. As soon as I know he's coming out, I'm like, click, 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 click. Like, let's have fun with the crowd. And like, I love his intro. I've enjoyed watching him grow as a champion too. Like you touched on it earlier, but like, he's really everybody's so quick to crap on him, and like. Io Sky's in this window too, right? So some people just naturally go in and they got the regalness of a champion. Some you got to build. And you know what? They're building Io Sky, they're building Jay. And you know why that's important? Is because in the future, after they lose their titles, if you build them correctly, even after they lose, they're always in that title picture. Do we ever really picture Drew McIntyre in a mid card? Yeah, he was going for it, but I always see Drew McIntyre as a world championship contender.
yes.
He's held the belt. He's done stuff with the belt. He's always in that picture. And most wrestlers, if you build them correctly, they're always going to be in that title picture. So, like, I see Sky in the same situation. Look, I know you're a big Gunther guy.
I agree. I agree. There's something missing from Gunther as much because he's not.
He just character wise,
Yep.
not in ring
Nope.
character. His character just needs something. The cocky, arrogant in ring wrestler guy just he needs something. And then finally on this one, it's about damn time Jay got sick of people talking down to him. as champion. And not his best promo work this week.
No, I
but
think he forgot. He lost track of where he was.
yeah,
But you know what? I don't think Jay's at that level where they let him spit and do his own promos. So okay, so he forgot it. I'm like, guess what? When I'm on this podcast, I get going on talking about something, and sometimes I forget what I'm talking about mid sentence. Yeah, it's just part of being human. He's going to make a mistake. Was there some awkward silence? Yeah. Was Gunther trying to feed him his line? You could see him. Okay, is it that big a deal? No. No.
nah.
And again, we're not trying to come across as snobby wrestling fans. It's just like at the end of the day, like it can't be perfect. Wrestling should never be It's never perfect. Things
You
always
have
go
good days, you have bad days.
Yeah.
You have days where you're going to screw up your
But even
promos.
though he forgot his line, he got the point across. And maybe it added, like, because he was flustered, because he's, like, tired of everybody talking about how he doesn't deserve to be champion, you know, how he should just be happy to be there, but he's not championship material. So it's just got him all flustered, you know?
Flustered.
When you
Yep.
get flustered, what happens? You forget what you're saying, you stammer, you stutter. So I do really think he forgot his lines, but even so, like, he kind of saved it by going on that little rant how people don't believe in him. So
Yep.
I'm
No, it was the best thing that came out of that promo. So, but I'll tell you what, as big of a deal that was. Did I mention Liv Morgan came back and she ended up with a match with Kairi Sane? And I don't know about you, but like when this match was made, I have it parentheses. This is before the match even happened. Probably kills Kairi Sane. That's what I had in my notes. Sane, this is the best I've seen Kairi Sane look in forever. Like this match, like I don't think it does much for a story, but holy crap, did she look good for it? She looked good. She wasn't playing second fiddle to somebody. She was standing on her own. She wasn't in a tag, and she looked good. She worked really well with Liv, and I was real happy with that. Now, I'm going to give out some flowers, man. The best referee in WWE is Jessica Carr. Jessica Carr is the best referee. Every match I watch her referee, I see her do the little crap right. And there was something I picked up on in this match that I loved. Twice in the match, she stopped before she started counting. She slid her hand underneath the shoulder of the person being pinned to verify that she could start counting. Because there was one time you couldn't, so she kind of went in and gave a little flick to be like, hey, you got to get that down. And like they got it down, they fixed it, she counted to 2, they kicked out. I don't care about the kick out. What I cared about was the ref did their job. As badly as we have seen botches in the past with referees, the fact that she is taking the time to do the little things. Like we talk about wrestlers having to do the little things all the time, but like Jessica Carr as a referee doing those little things is huge. Do not take it for granted. I love her as a referee. I think she's the best one they have.
Yeah, and if you notice, she's never in the way. Because some referees will tend to get in the way. I think it was Tommy Young. He was a famous NWA referee, which he kind of went against what he said, but he says the referee should almost be invisible until he needs to be seen. But Tommy would get more involved. But it's kind of true. Like, you don't ever want the referee to upstage the wrestlers. But another thing is, she's never in the way, but also she's never out of position.
That too.
So if they're working and they're doing a spot, and you may not see her on camera, she's off to the side, but once they get down and they're on the mat and someone's going for a pin or a submission, she's always there, but she's always on the right side. Like, she's never down by the feet where she has to scurry around to see the shoulders. I hate it when referees are like on the wrong side of the people and can't see the shoulders and they're still making the count. Like, you're supposed to verify the shoulder. She's always in the right position.
She does amazing. And it's not just this week that I've noticed it. I've noticed it over time. Like that, besides Kairi Sane having a great match, results don't matter. I had to give Jessica Carr her flowers.
Yeah.
Because I was like, holy crap, she is so good. And then you just notice it more and more. Because you don't notice her, but you always know when she's doing the match because it's so fluid. It's like somebody hit the mat and now you see the referee. She's so good.
And she doesn't act over dramatic like some of the referees.
No.
Nope.
Brass tacks.
Yeah. Like
So brass
when
tacks.
someone hits a move and the referee like makes a face or reacts, it's like You're a referee. You're not supposed to be like reacting to moves. Like you're there to do a job. So Jessica looks like she takes her job seriously. But yeah. So who knows? Maybe someday she'll be senior referee Jessica Carr. Once little Nate for Charles
You
Robinson.
know she's a wrestler, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I think Bully Ray got her in. I can't remember if it was her or Mark Henry. Like one of those two have an affiliation with her. Like I'm. This is gonna sound horrible. I'm glad she's not a wrestler because I love her as a ref.
Yeah.
I love her as a ref. So yeah, good stuff. All right, so we got a Lyra promo after that. It's a nice back and forth. Story went forward, but overall, meh. It wasn't anything exciting or to write home about.
Oh, Becky fed into her bitter character pretty good. She got enraged and played the
Yeah,
kind
and
of crazy Becky pretty good.
Lyra's been been really good about getting a one liner in
Yes.
every time they have a promo battle.
Yeah, she'll
So I
hit
give her
Becky with
credit
a
for that.
zinger. So, but
Yeah,
yeah, it was
she
all right.
gets her one, and after that, Cross talks to Sammy. Cross is on. I need some payoff with it, but Cross being like the little devil on everybody's shoulders, I love it. Like I hope they expand on that. You know what Cross is doing? Cross, as much as we talked about Jay following like the John Cena, Cody Rhodes model, Cross is following the Chelsea Green model, and the Chelsea Green model is even if you only get 10 seconds on TV, you maximize that 10 seconds. And he's been doing it, and his time is coming. He's going to start getting into the picture a little bit more.
I heard his T-shirt is like what one of the top 5 sellers in the WWE
Oh,
show.
dude! As soon as he went out into the real world and started doing stuff, he figured out that half of the formula. He's got himself over right now. So on TV, we need him a little more over, but like right now, he's over.
Yeah.
So like he's doing great stuff. So we get our final Money in the Bank match for the week. We get a Seth, we get a Sammy, and we get a Finn. I'm not gonna lie, I was kind of excited about this. More so for Seth and Finn going head to head. We don't see it very often. So I was happy with that. Seth dropped a frog splash in this match. Bro almost went coast to coast. It was impressive. I have Seth's frog splash. Holy crap. Like, that dude flew. The storytelling in this match, you said it earlier, they've cracked the code on the triple threat. Almost every triple threat they do is good. And, like, this one was no different.
Yeah. Actually, if I could bring up a
Seth,
point, you and I would
yeah,
talk on the phone, but way before this podcast. Sean used to hate triple threat matches because he
I
did.
do.
He was outspoken about it because, well, there's always that other person, and sometimes it becomes a mess. Like he almost thought fatal four ways were better than triple threats because at least they could pair off and stuff. But yeah, triple threat. Yeah, they have cracked the code. They've made them interesting. Sometimes they follow the same formula. They two against one, but it makes sense and it works, so why not?
I think they've gotten really good about the trade offs.
Yeah.
So that's the part I like about them lately. Like, they'll give you a reason why the third participant isn't in the ring. Like, they got spiked on the table. Something catastrophic
Yep.
happened for a while, and they can lie around and take a nap while the other two do their thing, and then you flip it around and everything else. But you're getting good wrestling in these triple threats, and everybody's getting their time to shine.
And
It's
any one of these three really could deserve a shot in a Money in the Bank ladder match.
I didn't know who was going to win.
Yeah.
I
Well,
could have
I
made an
kind of
argument
figured it
for all
was going to
three.
be Seth. I figured either Seth was going to win or one of the other two was going to pin the other one, and Seth wasn't going to be involved in the decision. But it made sense as Seth won just because of what his future path is. But it was,
Seth has to win.
yeah.
Seth has to win, and you can't have Seth taking losses right now as the leader of the faction that you're building. It undermines everything. So Seth had to win.
Yeah, I noticed too that Dom made a little mistake. Dom hasn't showed up ringside in about 3 weeks. And when he does show up ringside, he costs Finn Balor on purpose, accidentally on purpose, or accident. More to follow. But
Or Dom's just an idiot and he screwed up.
yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, he's juggling two women right now too. So
That's
he's,
always what happens when you got a side piece. Just saying.
yeah, it never ends up good.
Seth had a great sell on the haluva kick too.
Oh,
Like, I loved this sell on that. The perfect ending was the stomp on the chair. It was perfect. It was so effing like the way that whole sequence played out was just perfect. It was perfect storytelling. Like it made nothing in that ending didn't make sense. Okay, so got it. Dom screwed up. Chair thing, whatevs. Punk coming out post match. I have a note in here. I wanted to see what you thought. So Punk comes out. He does Punk things. He runs off into the crowd like a little bitch. By the way, kind of heelish.
But that's a CM Punk thing. He would always like escape through the crowd because you missed a lot of his first run, and that was a Punk
I
thing.
missed all his first
Right.
run. I ain't
So that
gonna
was
lie.
in the views. Whoever's watching this who will remember,
I don't know.
Punk would do a lot of
To
the.
me, it was the equivalent of like the sucker punch. Like, he ran up behind somebody with their back turned and went, bitch, and ran away. So,
Well,
but
you
I
also
had a
you
note
also
on
had
this.
Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed that were nearby. So Seth, he got his licks in. He got out while he was ahead.
And that's what I'm going to talk about. So, Punk wasn't in the ring very long. What should have happened instead of everybody pointing and screaming at Punk, I would have had Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker drag Sammy and Jay. They were on the outskirts. They were messed up. I'm willing to wager that they were still there. I would have drug them back into the ring and beat the piss out of them and forced Punk to come back in to save them. So Punk would have had to do a 180, come back to the ring. That's what I would have written. It would have went over a little bit better. It was a fine segment. I think you could have zhuzhed it up a little bit, and it would have been better.
Yeah, and they had plenty of time because I think this is one of the shorter Raw episodes. I think it only was like 2 hours and 20 some minutes. It was the shorter.
I like the Netflix formula. I'm not gonna lie.
Now,
Like I don't.
especially on Monday nights because it's a midweek night.
I
It's a work
just
night.
like that we have that flexibility,
Yep.
right? It's kind of the Will Ferrell in old school. We go to Bed Bath and Beyond. I don't know if we'll have enough time. I like that about Netflix that I do know I have enough time. Like, oh, we're gonna run long. Cool. Hey, we got all our stuff in early. Cool. The Netflix formula is like really good.
Yep.
SmackDown does a little more filler because it's 3 hours, and I just saw a report today to say that ain't changing anytime soon. They were supposed to go back down to 2 hours. I mean, can we just start treating it like a live sporting event and let it finish when it finishes? Like, have we reached that point yet? Every other damn sport has figured it out. Why is wrestling any different? Like, just
So if you're gonna do that with SmackDown, then what you do is you let the show go 2 hours and 45 minutes ish, and your last 13 to 17 minutes is your post wrap up, and you recap everything. You do a couple of
I'm
interviews,
fine with that.
but then again, it's cool when you either have a segment or a match that ends the show. So I
I
don't know.
just don't want to be on the clock. I
Yeah.
think like wrestling works better when you're not on the clock. Sometimes you get long episodes, sometimes you get short ones, just like this podcast. And then,
Yep.
it happens.
Yeah, because
So-
what happens on Friday nights, right, when it's the main event? What do you start doing? You're peeking up at the clock or looking at your watch, like, okay, they got 4 minutes at the top of the hour. We know it's going to wrap up. So, okay, yeah, it does take a little mystique out of it, but
Especially with the matches because you're just like, and I like that aspect about it too, right? Because I do that. I'm not gonna lie. Like when it's on USA and I'm like, I know they got a time hack. I'm like, and the next big thing will happen in about 30 seconds. There it is.
or you
there's-
get to like 58 minutes of into the hour, and you're like, how are they going to wrap this up in the next 90 seconds, and then go to credit.
So speaking of wrapping it up, Matt, let's wrap this up because we ran long yet
Yeah.
again. Some of that's technical issues. Though.
Yeah.
So overall, great times wrestling. Matt's on the road. I'll be on the road for the next couple of weeks as well, so you have more to look forward to. But the good news is we kind of cracked the code. We got around the crappy hotel internet on my end, and Matt found his hideaway in the Garage of Excellence on his end, So till then, Matt, tell the folks where they can find us.
You can find us on YouTube. We have shorts up on YouTube as well. You can find us on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok. Shout out to a lot of our TikTok viewers. I know it's not viral, but we've had a couple of videos that have reached close to 5,000 views, and I think For two guys that just fart around once a week on a podcast, and try to put stuff out there, I think we're pretty happy with the progress. Those of you who like and comment and follow and subscribe, we really appreciate that. What we also going to do, I know it's a long podcast. I did it last week for a test run. We're going to take some shorter clips between 5 and 10 minutes like we did if we're talking about one subject. We'll post that separate too. So if you don't have time to go through the whole podcast, we'll put some shorter videos with some good content. There were some things we talked about tonight that definitely we want to queue up and put that out there so that if you're in a, you only got 10 minutes to watch something, we'll put something out good for you. But other than that, thank you again for those who liked and subscribed, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, keep those comments coming, folks. Like,
I've had some good ones.
I'm not sure if you picked up on it this week, but like, we do pay attention. We do listen to your comments,
and we really try to respond.
We respond, and like, we want to hear what you think. Feel free to share your thoughts. If you think our storylines or whatever we're talking about is a little off, give us a different perspective, man. That's how we all get better, right? So we're loving the interactions. Thank you to everybody for like hitting up our media and watching our stuff. Like, just keep on hitting those likes and subscribes. We're going to keep on chugging out content. As you can tell, we went mobile.
Yep.
And as always, folks, have a great one. And we'll talk to you guys next week after we're going to see what happens. Cena and Cody face-to-face this week. But have a good one. Talk to y'all later.
All right. Have a good one. Bye-bye.